Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most fascinating FNAF fan games ever released. Whether it's their strange worlds, incredible stories, or ideas unlike anything else in the community, these games give you plenty to think about. Some of these are just as interesting to talk about as they are to actually play, so let's dive into them. Well guys, another day, another new FNAF fan game coming out of the woodworks, and that FNAF fan game being spammed in my comments until I cover it. Usually when this happens, of course, I'm inclined to look at the project that people are talking about, and a lot of the time I add that game to my list of games to play over on Dxtr Black. Well, today is no different. One of the newest FNAF fan games to come out this year is none other than Fred and Pals, the game we'll be covering in today's video. Plenty of people have asked to hear about this one, and for a pretty damn good reason. There's a lot to talk about. So strap in as I talk about the highs and the lows of Fred and Pals. Wasting no time at all in detaching my balls and gently tossing them into night one, we already have a bit to talk about. Mainly the tools at our disposal, how they function, and why it makes me want to put my balls in a meat grinder. To start, we have several directions we can look in inside of our office. Obviously, we can look directly in front of us, to both sides of us, and of course, behind us. In front of us is our camera system. To our left and right, we have our doors, and right behind us is a power switch. But we'll talk about that later. What is important is this little handheld device we have, the SMU. While looking behind us or while standing next to either of the doors, we'll be able to pull up this device. While it's held, you'll be able to select any of the 4 characters in this game. And by holding down the trigger, we can shoot something in the direction we're aiming. What are we shooting? That I don't know the answer to. The device only has 3 shots in it before it needs to recharge, so we can't just be spamming this thing throughout the whole night. Unfortunate, I know, but I guess video game balancing will do what it has to do. Speaking of these characters we need to shoot, who are they? Well, actually, before we talk about that, you're getting ahead of yourself. We need to talk about the cameras first. Oh boy, the cameras. This is a lot more than you think it's going to be. Fred and Pals decided that the camera system is where they needed to deviate from the normal FNAF game. And while I do appreciate the creativity, I don't appreciate it by itself. I want to preface, it's not bad, it's just a lot. To start, there is a metric shitload of cameras. Of course, my favorite thing when it comes to cameras, you can't move your mouse to select which one you want to use. You have to use A and D to scroll through each of the cameras. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. However, unlike most other FNAF games that use this mechanic, it's not the slowest thing on planet Earth. No, quite the opposite, actually. You can scroll through cameras so quickly that sometimes you'll surf through 2 on accident. It is incredibly easy to do this and will 100% lead to you getting lost as to which camera you're currently looking at, and figuring out how far away you are from the camera you actually want to look at. Speaking of looking at the cameras, let's talk about how fucking sick these ones look. They use night vision, which is why they're so green, but it also puts this crazy filter over them, which I think looks incredible. But hush up, I'm not done talking about how the camera controls. I know I'm all over the place with my explanations right now, but I don't care. You may be thinking while looking at these cameras, hey Dxtr, these camera shots are kind of small. Why aren't the cameras scrolling back and forth? Fantastic question. The answer to that is you have to scroll them yourself. I'm getting flashbacks to late shift at Nintendo World. Please don't do this to me again. You have to click and drag with your mouse to scroll the cameras. But the best part, the cameras scroll in the opposite direction that you drag it in. So that's a bit disorienting to get used to, but get used to it, you must. The last thing to talk about before we move on to the threats, moving back to the doors, on top of being able to murk animatronics with our SMU, we can also close the doors like normal people. However, the doors are controlled with a crank of all things for some odd reason. No idea why, that seems pretty weird. But that means that the door can only be closed as long as you're holding it. But we'll get more into doors and how useful they are a bit later. For now, let's talk about the one threat this night introduces, Fluppy. Yes, by the way, I'm serious. That is actually this character's name. It's really just Bonnie, but the devs thought that the name changes in this game is what they needed to crack down on. Don't get me wrong, I love all the silly names in this game, but I do need to point out how silly they are. Fluppy's goal is to make it to your left door, just like Bonnie from FNAF 1. He will slowly creep through all of the cameras until he gets there. And this is where I want to mention how fucking nasty these characters look, especially the poses that they're put in on these cameras. Seriously, look at Fluppy, bro. Tell me it doesn't look like he's a child predator. He does. Child predator ass rabbit. Look at that. Look at that look in his eyes, dude. What do you think he doing on a regular basis besides grooming minors on Discord? Anyways, moving past that, once Fluffy gets to the storage closet and has a successful movement opportunity, he will enter the doorway to your office. However, you will not be able to see him in your doorway since it's too dark. This gives you a reason to be keeping track of him on the camera, because if you don't, you're going to get fucked up because he doesn't make a sound cue when he's at your door. When he is at your door, you need to pull out your gun, select Fluffy, and well, just watch what happens next. Boom, bitch! I didn't like that. Yeah, honestly, one of the creepiest animations I've ever seen. The moment I saw this, I knew this was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. Once you shoot him, he will go back to the stage and the cycle will continue. Survive until 6 a.m. and we'll move on to night 2. Night 2 is pretty much the same as night 1. To start, we obviously get a phone call from the phone guy. He asks us if we used our SMU on Fluppy. Obviously, we know we did. He says they found him standing in the back room looking up at the light. They went to grab something, and when they came back, he was back on stage. I have a real question. Why on earth? Why the fuck ever would you work at a place like this? You're telling me that the robots are moving, you don't know why they're moving, you're positive they shouldn't be moving, and yet here you are, still working while they're doing so. I feel like any sane person would get the fuck out of there immediately, but I digress. Night 2 introduces one new threat, that being Chica, or as this game calls her, Henrietta. Henrietta, as I'm sure you could have assumed, works in the exact same way as Fluffy does, except she attacks your right door instead of your left. Same rules apply to her. When she enters the doorway, which just like Fluffy, you won't be able to see, all you have to do is select her on the SMU and blast her ass and she'll go back on stage. This night did bring up a concern that I had, however, and that comes with the way the cameras operate. I mentioned how you can't just select any camera that you want, and you have to surf through each of them one by one. Mechanics like that always make me nervous in FNAF games since it takes away a large element of your control. And in a genre like FNAF where control isn't really something you have, I'm sure you could understand how this would get pretty scary. So this brings up the beginning of a flourishing strategy. To avoid switching cameras as much as possible, I needed to figure out which cameras were the last cameras that both Fluffy and Henrietta appeared on. That way I could just camp those cameras and not have to worry about constantly following them around. So I learned that Fluffy's last camera is the storage room and Henrietta's last camera is the delivery camera. And with those two important pieces of information in my noggin, we're safe to move on to night 3. With night 3 coming along, a new character is added. This character leads to a new strategy needing to be thought up. But before we talk about this new character, I want to talk about the phone call we get on this night, as it gives some pretty interesting information. To start, phone guy mentions that Henrietta was found in the kitchen banging pots and pans, but when he entered to investigate, she froze, which I think is really fucking creepy. It's like some Toy Story shit. She only moves when you're not looking. He explains that she's supposed to do that during the day to make the kids think she's cooking, but during the night, it should be impossible. The second thing he brings up is their head technician who should be coming to fix this problem. His name is Will. Now, could it be a coincidence that the name of this technician is a shortened version of FNAF's main antagonist? Well, yes, it very well could be. Do I think it is? No, not really. We don't get much information about him on this night, however. Anyways, moving on to the threat this night introduces, Voss. This game's Foxy. Except you want to hear something really funny? He doesn't work how Foxy works at all, and he actually makes me piss fire. Voss is present in the sheriff camera. If you pull up your camera, you'll notice several areas are red and have an electricity symbol present next to them. Throughout the night, Voss will progress through multiple stages on his starting camera. When he leaves this camera, you will hear him whistle. When he whistles, that signals to you that he has gone to one of the cameras with a fuse box. You will have to quickly find which camera he went to and hold space to send him back. So, Technically, another find them on the camera mechanic, which I'm not too thrilled about. However, at least there's only 4 cameras he can be on. And if you're anything like me, you remembered the tap pattern to get to each one so you can quickly navigate all of them. Oh yeah, and I totally forgot to mention that one of the fuse boxes is directly behind you. I totally forgot that my office has one of those too. Oh my god. I'm paranoid. Yeah, that caught me off guard pretty well and kind of scared the shit out of me, but hey, I think that's actually really cool that during a find them on the camera moment, the character can also choose to show up in your office. Do I like that it's a find them on the camera mechanic? No, but at least it's slightly different than the usual. But knowing that he makes a sound cue, the strategy from last night hasn't changed all that much, and we can move on to night 4. Night 4 brings a threat I'm honestly not sure how to beat, if I'm being completely honest. Quick recap of the phone call. Voss is misbehaving like Fluppy and Henrietta have been, and Fred did something odd. He stopped performing during the day and leaned forward, a bunch of oil spilling out of his chest. Phone Guy used the SMU to restart him, but instead of continuing to play, his head just snapped towards him. Personally, I would shit myself. Apparently using the SMU in front of customers is against the rules, and now Phone Guy has a meeting with the executives tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. I personally think that's a little silly. What would they prefer he do? Just leave Fred leaning with oil leaking out of him in front of the children so they think he fucking died? What would have been a better choice in these guys' eyes? Anyways, tonight introduces Fred, and like I said, I'm not totally sure how he works. And that will make sense as I talk about him, I promise. Fred will slowly make his way to your office, and he can attack either of your doors. Every time he moves, he laughs, so that's nice. And when he's at your door, he also laughs. So following him on the cameras is not necessary at all, which I love since there's already a lot in this game. Now, when Fred gets to your door is when I get confused. You can see me live trying to figure out how to deal with him over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. At first, I just tried using the SMU on him, which seemed to work when I did, but then he killed me. The next thing I thought was maybe he's just a close the door on him character, so I tried that, but then this happened. Oh shit, I don't think I'm ever supposed to let him get here. Or maybe I'm supposed to flash him and then hold it shut? Oh boy, come on. Turn 6 a.m. right fucking now. Uh-oh. Please, Chica, be nice. Fluppy can't hurt me. That was so gay what I just did right there. So yeah, he'll just pound on the door for the rest of the night. And if you ever let go, you immediately die. So obviously in that clip, I beat the night. And with the way I now write my Dxtr White videos, I haven't actually attempted night 5 at the time of writing. But if I had to guess, you have to flash Fred with your SMU, then close the door on him. But I guess I'll get myself confirmation on night 5. All right, night 5. The night I said I'd get confirmation on Fred's mechanic. I actually think writing the way I do bodes great for how shitty this game is at explaining anything. This night is the night I tried flashing Fred with the SMU and then closing the door. Spoiler alert, it did nothing. He still just pounded on the door the entire night. So that brings up the question, how the fuck am I supposed to deal with this guy? Well, I've got one more theory, but before I talk about it, let's talk about this night's phone call. Not much happens in it, but Phone Guy does tell us the meeting with the higher-ups didn't go well, and that he's getting fired. He said someone will be coming to collect his things, but they didn't tell him who. I find that odd because from everything that I know, you collect your things and someone is with you to make sure you don't, steal anything. That's how it went when I got let go from my previous job. So I find it weird that he doesn't even get to do that. He says that the building is closed to the public and explains that the only reason we're still here is because of a safety protocol. Now, I usually wouldn't question an explanation like that. However, Phone Guy laughs and says, "Yeah, right," after saying so. But he doesn't elaborate further. He says tonight is his last and that he'll be fired, so I doubt we'll be hearing from him tomorrow. Now, on to my theory on how Fred works. Throughout this video, you might have been wondering, Dexter, if you didn't know how to deal with Fred, how the hell have you made it this far? And the answer to that question is, I just got really lucky. I got very lucky that Fred only attacked me once on each of the nights he was present. I got very lucky that he only chose to attack near the end of the night. I also got lucky that Fluppy, hands down the most aggressive character in the game, happens to attack the same door that Fred chose to attack, so that while I held it closed for the whole night, Fluppy was unable to get in, and I'm incredibly lucky that both Henrietta and Voss chose not to attack me after Fred had gotten to my door. This is hands down the weirdest situation I've ever had while playing a FNAF game. I've never not understood how a character worked and still have been able to get through the nights with said character active. But anyways, my new theory on how Fred works is a sad one that makes my penis invert like a groundhog. I'm thinking you have to not allow Fred to ever get to your door by using the go back feature on the cameras to constantly push him back. Is this terrible? Yes. But that's exactly why I think that's what this game is going to want me to do. We'll find out on the final night. But I think this shows a great point of how you really need to explain things to your player. I should not be struggling this hard to figure out what a character does. Sure, you could argue that the phone guy saying Fred's head snapped towards him when he used the SMU was a hint to not use the SMU on him, which sure, I think that's a bit silly, but we'll roll with it. But even if that was the case, the game explained to me how the other characters worked in detail. Why not Fred? Also, if I can't use the SMU on Fred, then why the hell is it even an option on the SMU unless to hint at the fact that I can use it on him? Maybe I'm just going insane, but I don't think I am. At least give me a death explanation like a lot of FNAF fan games do. I love that shit. Anyways, time for us to move on to the final night. Hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, so night 6. Needless to say, is not even remotely close to what I expected it to be at all. But that's not a bad thing. Kind of. Let me explain. This night begins with us getting another phone call. If you're anything like me, you may be wondering who could be calling us, considering the phone guy, whose name is Dan, by the way, I just never mentioned that, was fired. Well, a man by the name of William Afton is calling us. Remember that weird technician named Will I mentioned earlier? Yeah, it wasn't a coincidence like I suspected. William tells us he's been watching us throughout the 5 nights we've been here and tells us that our run ends tonight. This night serves as a semi-boss fight night, as once the night begins, you'll notice all of the animatronics disappear off of the cameras and are replaced by only William inside of the Spring Bonnie suit. You might be wondering where the rest of the characters went, and here's your answer. Ew. Hold up. The ghosts are fucking around me. Hello? How did you guys get here? What do you have in your hand? Is that a knife? Bitch, don't come near me with that thing. So yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Anyways, how do you deal with Afton? Well, here's actually the really funny part about that. You don't. Because you can't. All of the characters are blocking your doors, preventing you from moving over to them. So when William gets to your office, you'll be dead no matter what. However, you getting knocked out by William in the office is intended, as after you come to, you'll find yourself in the back room of the building, stuffed inside of a springlock suit, with William standing in front of you. He has a classic villain monologue, and I'll just let him do the talking.
Good morning. So, finally awake? Head still ringing? Do you feel that? The weight, the locks tightening? That's the sound of control. Every bolt, every spring. My design. They call me a monster, a murderer. But I built life. I give them purpose. The world out there forgets. But inside these walls, they remember. You'll join the show now. You'll keep them company. That's what you wanted, isn't it? To be part of something bigger. The difference between us, I learned how to survive it. And I will always come back.
Thinking that we're going to be left for dead, we notice a phone on the desk in front of us. This night has us make our way over to this phone to call for help. However, we're obviously in a springlock suit, so that really isn't going to be a walk in the park exactly. We have 3 things that we can do during this section. We could walk forward slowly and lift either of our arms up. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see 3 rectangles on both sides. These are how many spring locks are in each of our arms. If all 3 go off in either, we lose. Also, if we walk for too long, our danger meter will turn red and the head of the suit will snap shut. Whenever you're holding up your arm, that arm's spring locks can't be activated. However, you can't lift up both arms at the same time. So you really have to balance which one you hold up while walking. Generally, this is the strategy. Hold up one arm and walk forward 3 steps. Switch arms and take another 3 steps. Repeat this process until the danger meter on the bottom of the screen turns yellow. Once it does, switch from taking 2 steps to only taking 2, since when the danger level is yellow, you can't really take any more than that. After completing all of that, we make it to the phone and call authorities.
911, what's your emergency?
Fred and pals. Old site. Parts and service. The suit, I'm trapped. It's crushing me.
Sir, stay calm. What is your name?
Doesn't matter. Listen. There are bodies here. Kids. Inside the suits.
Say again?
He did it. The technician Will. William Afton.
Is he present?
Yes. Somewhere nearby. Locked me in. I tried to stop him.
The rescue units are dispatched. Stay online with me and keep talking.
The children. They won't let me.
Sir, what is that noise? Hello? Hello?
Authorities have apprehended William Afton, former technician for Fred and Pal's Pizza Entertainment. Following an anonymous emergency call, authorities conducted a thorough investigation inside the abandoned pizzeria. They recovered the remains of the missing children, trapped within the animatronic suits, and also discovered the security guard's fate sealed within another suit. Evidence confirmed William's role in the horrifying events. With the truth finally revealed, the pizzeria was closed permanently and the community could begin to heal. Though the security guard did not survive, their courage brought justice. William Afton and his grim legacy will remain forever trapped within the darkness of Fred and Pals. And now, at last, the soul of the children find peace and can move on, freed from their torment, leaving behind a sense of calm and healing. And there you have it. With that, we get the good ending, and Fred and Pals comes to a close. Overall, I think Fred and Pals was very fun, albeit a short fan game, which there's obviously nothing wrong with. This game has such a recognizable art style, and I especially love the way the cameras look. This game was wonderful at building atmosphere, the gameplay loop is interesting enough with the length of the game, and the ending does something completely different, which is always super awesome to see. Also, if you were curious, since the final night isn't a typical night, I never actually got the chance to go against Fred again to see how he worked. And at the time of writing this, I still don't know exactly how to deal with him. But I honestly think it's a lot funnier if I don't tell you, since I never learned how it worked and I was still able to beat the game. My guess is that you have to push him back in the cameras, but unless someone in the comments explains it, I'll never know, and I think that's funny. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Fred and Pals just doesn't have enough going for it to be memorable? Let me know in the comments below. In my Late Shift at Nintendo World video, I asked you guys what your favorite asset dump FNAF game was and why, and my favorite answer was everyone who said Five Nights at Wario's. I don't really know what I was expecting. Of course that was going to be the most popular answer. What do you think makes a game a masterpiece? Let's actually make that question a little more specific. What do you think makes a FNAF game a masterpiece? Is it purely graphics, good sound design, or maybe you just care about the story? While those are all valid answers, my answer tends to be a little different. I love myself some good post-game, extra things that can be done aside from the main story mode, and rest assured the game that we're going to be covering today has plenty of it. You've all been wanting me to cover this game for a long time, and we're finally here. So strap in and join me today as we talk about Knuckles Week at Sonic. sucks. Before we even start talking about the actual mechanics this game has to offer, there's a pre-game cutscene for us to take a look at. Obviously, throughout this game we play as Knuckles, and if you couldn't figure that out, then my best bet is your parents dropped you on your head when you were developing, or if it wasn't that, then while your mom was pregnant, she was doing belly flops in the pool all the time. In this cutscene, we see Knuckles guarding the Master Emerald, but low-key, he was bored as hell, not even gonna front. A flyer blows onto one of the pillars on Angel Island. Knuckles investigates and sees that it's a job offering for a security guard at Sonic's Hero Pizza Palace. For some reason, God knows what, Knuckles decides that working at a restaurant would be a better use of his time instead of guarding the fucking emerald, aka literally his only job. Knuckles pulls up to Vector's crib. With him is Espio and Charmy B for some reason. He offers the three of them guap to go watch the Master Emerald while he fucks off on some side quest for a week. They agree, and bada bing bada boom, we have the reason that Knuckles is here. Does it make any sense at all? Literally fucking no, but whatever. Now, instead of just entering into the night like you would expect, you instead get thrown into a side-scroller. You get approximately 17 minutes of tutorial that was boring enough for me to rip all of my toenails off. Basically, all you need to know is the way you enter nights is by interacting with these big odd TVs. After you complete a night, the next will unlock. This is really just a FNAF menu, but overcomplicated for no reason. Anyways, entering into the first night, we quite literally get the most painful phone call of all time. For some reason, this game thought it would be super cute and funny to be the only FNAF game in existence to not have a voice-acted phone call. So instead, you have to read approximately 37 paragraphs before you can even start the night. Luigi is the one giving us the voicemails, and he was working the week before us. He tells us some bullshit that I'm gonna end up telling you guys anyways, so let's just jump right into the tools at our disposal. Let's start by talking about our power, since yes, they somehow decided to make it more complicated than it needed to be. Your power can be replenished. Okay, so I over-exaggerated when I said it was overcomplicated. The way you recharge your power is through your cameras. Inside of your cameras, you will see a specific camera with an arrow above it. In this camera, rings will spawn at random intervals. Collecting them will increase your power by 4% per ring. Occasionally, the ring camera will switch, but it's always super easy to find because of the arrow. I'm not even going to pretend to understand how that makes any sense, but we're just gonna nod our heads and smile. Your doors are pretty simple. They close. Well, if you keep them closed for too long, they'll overheat and drain power faster than usual. That's really about it. Time to move on to the threats this night introduces. Let's start by talking about Mario since he's basic and fat. Mario's goal is to attack your left door. However, there's not a single character in this game that I personally find boring, which is actually super great. Before Mario comes to your door, he'll attempt to move into Camera 5. Inside of Camera 5, there are several classic Mario power-ups, and Mario is really trying to get his hands on the fire flower. Why exactly is he trying to do that? Well, because the fire from the flower is strong enough to melt through metal, aka your doors. The way you prevent him from getting this flower is by shutting the light off in the camera when he enters it. When he enters Camera 5, there will be a creaking sound cue. After you turn the light off, he will bum rush your left door, so make sure you close it quickly or he's gonna pole vault into that ass. The other character introduced on this night is Yoshi, and she is also a pretty interesting character. The whole goal for Yoshi is to attack your right door. On Camera 7, which is the kitchen, you can pick up an apple. Fucking somehow, you're able to grab an apple in Camera 7 and have it appear in your hand, even though you're in a completely different room. Does that make any sense at all? No, but I'm also playing as an echidna right now, so I think all logic is already being tossed out the window. Anyways, once Yoshi makes her way to your door, which by the way has no sound cue along with it, so that's just great, you will have to hold your flashlight on her and throw the apple into her mouth. This will satiate her hunger, but her potent fury will still be an issue. Quickly close the door after you feed her and wait for her to slam on the door a few times. Then you can open the door again. Now, that's all the threats this night introduces, but I've still got one more crazy mechanic to talk about, that being blocking and parrying. What the fuck does that mean? Well, if you fuck up and a character jump scares you, you can actually pull your fists up to block them, which is just fucking insane? The window for doing this is borderline frame perfect, but if you can manage to be fast enough, you can save yourself from certain death 1 time per night, which is pretty cool. Anyways, that's all night 1 has to offer. After each night, you're given a score with a final letter ranking. The more rings you collect, the higher it goes. Having a high amount of saved power will also increase this rating, and of course, the difficulty you play the night on. This is a super fun little touch that I love, and it really brings out my goblin completionist brain. But as you'll see, this game is about to get really fucking hard, so I don't think I'll be getting many other letter grades up to A. Moving on to night 2, we only introduce 1 new threat. The phone call is pretty fucking worthless, just explaining how said new threat works. So instead of talking about the phone call, we can just talk about the threat. That threat being Tails, who as you could probably expect is this game's Foxy, and who is so far, in my opinion, the most boring character in the entire game. Can't win them all, I suppose. Tails will slowly make his way out of Pirate's Cove. Once he leaves, he'll charge towards your left door. However, this is where he gets a bit different from Foxy. Instead of having to close the door on him, all you have to do is hold your flashlight in his eyes for a few seconds to make him go away. He does also make a sound cue running down your hall, which I do think is nice. However, this mechanic does bring up a few problems. Not for us as players, but for the game. The reason you stall Foxy in FNAF 1 is because when he bangs on your door, it drains power. Well, Tails doesn't bang on the door in this game, and even if he did, you can very easily recollect power through the rings on the cameras. So it honestly makes Tails a pretty useless character overall. You don't even need to have a super fast reaction time to deal with him, since it takes him quite a while to actually make it down your hallway. Oh yeah, during the night, the phone guy tries to explain how the rings make any sense at all, which I appreciate because they make no sense. His explanation is, no joke, Tails is smart and can clone them with a clone machine. So it really just doesn't fucking answer the question at all, so I guess I'll just go fuck myself then. One more thing I want to mention before we move on to the next night is how long the nights are, since I'm noticing I haven't actually done that yet. While yes, each night starts at 12 a.m. like most FNAF games, for some reason, the devs thought it would be really cute and hilarious to make the nights end at 8 a.m. instead of 6 a.m., making these nights take way fucking longer than they need to. And I'm not gonna lie, I say this all the time, I am horrible at FNAF games. Absolutely dog shit. So when I die at 7 a.m., it really makes me want to sit underneath a lawnmower and turn it on. But hey, surely the next night won't introduce the worst character of all time, right? Spoiler alert, it does exactly that. So let's waste no time and talk about him. Actually, psych, I fucking lied. We're not gonna talk about the new threat quite yet. First, I want to mention the phone call. Luigi mentions he's noticing an active Sonic that's not the actual Sonic we see on stage. He says that it's a spare costume they keep in the back room. Probably this game's version of a Springlock suit. Luigi thinks that Eggman has something to do with this, but why the fuck would Dr. Rofatfuck give a shit about a pizza place? Oh yeah, he literally wouldn't care about that at all, so I'm just gonna move on from that stupid theory. Luigi, you're retarded, and I hate you. Anyways, moving on to the threat this night introduces, that character being Sonic. The actual Sonic this time, not the mascot Sonic that Luigi saw. Sonic's mechanic is simple in practice, but can be difficult to deal with if you're not good at paying attention. Sonic's aggression is directly tied to the rings you collect. You obviously need to collect the rings because if you didn't, you would most certainly run out of power by 8 a.m. However, now when you look at the cameras, you'll be able to see a Sonic counter in the bottom of the screen. Every time you collect a ring, this counter goes down. When it reaches 0, Sonic will progress to his next stage and the counter will reset. Upon entering his third and final phase, he will move to camera 9, and you will also get an alert for that camera letting you know he's on his last phase. When he enters this phase, you need to check camera 9 to see which side of the camera he's on. Depending on which side he's on will tell you which door he's going to attack. Once you bring his counter down to 0, he will immediately charge at your door. You will have less than a fraction of a second to close the door he's going to attack before he quite literally pile drives that anus into another country. The best strategy I can recommend here is that you should get his final counter down to 1, close the door he's going to attack, and then grab the last ring. That way you won't have to react to him at all. You can also not worry about Sonic when you're dealing with the other characters because he will never move under any circumstance unless you're collecting rings. So while he is a pretty annoying character, he's also incredibly forgiving. Honestly, at this point in the game, I still think Yoshi is probably the most difficult character to deal with purely because she's the only character that doesn't make a sound cue. And I'm retarded and forget to grab another apple from the kitchen every time she attacks. But that part is more of a skill issue. The no sound cue part does make my dick shrivel up though. Alright, here we are in night 4. This night introduces a pretty interesting character. But before we really jump into the ass clench that this night is, we should talk about the pre-night cutscene.
Hey, Knuckles. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up, because I might not see my friends again after this shift. Something evil is here. I keep seeing it, and nobody believes me. The fact that the old clones move around, but I've seen it. You need to leave now and don't look back. Hey, Knuckles, tell Mario that I love him.
So yeah, in case your eyes don't work or you're brain dead, Luigi just got completely murked. Sorry, Buster. Sucks to suck. Anyways, as you probably noticed, Luigi didn't actually explain how to deal with the issue that night. And while I usually bitch about the phone guy doing this, I'm never actually serious about it bothering me, as it does make perfect sense that the phone guy should explain these things to you. However, now that our phone guy is dead and we still don't know how to deal with the new threat this night introduces, what are we supposed to do and how are we supposed to know how to deal with the threat without somebody telling us? Well, it seems this game didn't really think about that part because the way it teaches us is just by putting the text on our screen. This just feels really weird. Who exactly is telling us this information and why did the devs feel like this was the best way to go about it? I have no idea, but enough padding for runtime. Let's actually talk about the new threat Night 4 introduces. That threat being Golden Sonic. Golden Sonic is definitely an annoying character, but thankfully he's nowhere near as frustrating as I was expecting him to be. Golden Sonic will start in your right doorway. Yes, your doorway. He never leaves. Throughout the night, the longer he sits in the dark, he will start to materialize in your doorway. If he does this fully, then he'll blow your back from the back. Bars. To keep him from materializing, all you have to do is occasionally hold your flashlight on him to make him go away. Now, I personally think putting him in the right doorway makes him pretty worthless, since you'll be constantly flashing your light in this doorway anyways to deal with Yoshi. Now, if they were to just move him to the left side, I think this would make him a million times more difficult, since up until this point, the only time you ever need to flash the left door is when Tails is attacking. So giving the player another reason to constantly look back and forth would not only make his mechanics seem more useful, but would also, of course, make it a lot more stressful. I think Golden Sonic could have been a really cool character. I'm just super happy they didn't turn him into a find him on the camera character, since they very easily could have and just completely ruined this fucking game. But thankfully, the devs have a heart and soul, and I think that's something we all can really appreciate. Anyways, time to move on to Night 5. Night 5 opens to a phone call. You might think that's pretty weird since we just saw Luigi get fucked, so who could possibly be calling us? Well, let's take a look.
Hello, Knuckles. You're doing wonderfully amazing in your job. It's the last day for you. Then you get to spend the weekend guarding the Master Emerald. Sounds like vacation for you. Yeah, I probably want that. Do you want to know what I want? And it's something I always had several years ago. I want the attention I deserve to have. Do you think you can help me with that? It would be delightful if you did. But until then,
So yeah, Golden Sonic means fucking business tonight, clearly, and you'd better believe he means it. Well, as you can tell from the AI values before entering the night, this one is going to be a challenge. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to talk about since nothing new is introduced. This is just a much harder version of Night 4. But I do have one important piece of advice. There will probably be a few instances where multiple characters attack your door at the same time. Mainly for me, it happened to be Mario and Tails. If Tails is ever an attacking character, always make sure you deal with him first, since he is by far the least forgiving character out of the cast. After completing Night 5, we get another cutscene. Of course, we get our paycheck, which is only 200 rings, which is complete bullshit because throughout the nights, I was consistently collecting over 500, but fuck it, whatever, sure. I still don't even understand the whole point of us going to the pizza place in the first place, but sure. Knuckles makes his way back to the Master Emerald only to see Vector, Charmy, and Espio all knocked out by the emerald. Except they're not by the emerald because we noticed that the emerald is actually missing, but a piece of paper is left in its place. Looking at the paper, we see a picture of this goofy ass looking Sonichu looking fuck, and on the back of the paper is a note, presumably from Sonichu, telling us that if we want the emerald back, we can get it back on Saturday if we come back to the pizzeria. So fuck it, we don't get to enjoy our weekend. We have to go back to get this stupid fucking emerald again. Hopefully Night 6 isn't going to be fucking insanely hard. Right? Night 6 is fucking insanely hard. Like, really fucking hard. However, I do think it's probably the coolest night in the entire game. This night really takes Golden Sonic and pumps him full of crack because holy shit, he's insane on this night. Before we get into the night, we actually get to see one of the coolest cutscenes I've ever seen in a FNAF game before. Take a look.
Greetings again, Knuckles. You do not know how happy I am to see you arrive on such a dreadful day. In fact, I still need your help with the attention I rightfully deserve. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. I wasn't always like this. I remember that exact day when I came out of the machine. I immediately looked ugly because my colors were wrong, and I had these long arms. But it didn't stop the attention I got. It felt like I was a part of something big. It was only me on that stage. I was mad as my career was stolen by that doctor. Doesn't deserve that. However, I enjoyed the pain of being thrashed. Felt like it showed me a better way to get attention. I learned so much when going through that excruciating pain. The mindset I have right now is to kill someone. Not because I am a killer with no mind. I am a killer with a mind and a goal to reach. I could just kill someone that's very well known. Tear off their head, their limbs, leave them unrecognizable, and show it to the world. Show the world who I am and what I can do. I almost had that moment until that little fool was able to escape my grasp. He was reported racing after showing his face here. It's not enough. It's not enough for me to be known, to regain that spotlight. I know what you can do to help me, Knuckles. There's no escaping, so a better idea would be for you to just give up and let me take you to a better world. What do you say? In denial. Fine. Have it your way then.
Incredible animation. That's all I'll say about what I just saw. This might just be the coolest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF fan game before. And by the way, if you were curious, all of the art in this game was done in Ibis Paint. Anyways, let's start with the worst mechanic he has. Throughout the night, he will disable your ability to collect rings. So that's AIDS. How do you get the ability to do it again? Well, on this night, you'll be able to see a camera symbol inside of your cameras. Yeah. You know exactly what I'm about to say. When he disables your rings, he will randomly teleport to a camera and you'll have to fucking find him and flash him with your camera. Now get this. As the night progresses, when he does this attack, he'll have the chance to teleport to more than just one camera. That's right. Find him on the cameras up to 5 fucking times when nearing the end of the night. And what makes this even worse is that your camera flash has a pretty long cooldown, making me want to rip my foreskin off as I wait for it to charge up just to be able to flash him again. But we're not done yet. Golden Sonic has a fuck ton more tricks up his sleeves. To start, he still has the shining door mechanic you have to keep track of, so make sure you're keeping track of it. His next attack actually has him come into the office and start a miniature boss fight where he'll have several different attacks that he can do. When he jumps into your office, you'll see him start moving around, putting his arms up. When he swings his arm down, you'll have to face the opposite side of the office to dodge the attack. Do this a few times and eventually he'll try to do a full attack where he'll lunge towards you. When he does this, you'll have to block him and then punch him in the fucking face. Yes, I'm serious. This will deplete some of his health, and as I'm sure you could have guessed, this night doesn't end until you get Golden Sonic's health bar down to 0. But as the night progresses, his battle attack gets worse, just like his find him on the camera mechanic. The later the night gets, the more likely it'll be for a shadow clone of Sonic to appear in the office as well during his battle attack. While this shadow is in your office, you will not be able to deal damage to Golden Sonic. In order to make the shadow go away, you will have to hold your mouse on it. Except if you get unlucky, Golden Sonic could constantly camp the side that the shadow is on, leading to you never being able to get rid of it. Holy shit, this guy's fucking AIDS. As the night goes on, he'll develop another trick in addition to his battle attack, that being having Chain Chomps attack you as well. Occasionally, the top or bottom half of your screen will turn red. You need to make sure your mouse is not touching that red section. After a second or two, a Chain Chomp will glide across the red part of the screen, and if your mouse is there, you'll lose a life. Keep in mind, by the way, as you're dealing with Golden Sonic, all of the other characters are still active as well, so make sure you don't let that slip your mind or it's GG. But we're not done quite yet. Let's say you manage to get Golden Sonic's health down to 0. Just take a look at what happens.
We've only just begun our game, but now it's your turn to be left alone.
That's right, every other character deactivates and it becomes a full-on 1v1 battle against Golden Sonic. As this section of the night progresses, he'll obtain all of the additional abilities he got during the first half of the night. This includes the Chain Chomp attack, the Shadow attack, and fuck it, they actually add another trick on top of that. Now, when you only have about 3 punches left before winning, Golden Sonic will get the ability to fake you out, and he will do this every single time. Both your block and punch have a cooldown, so you can't just spam them, and the game tries to take advantage of this. When he goes in for his final attack, block him. However, don't punch right away as he's going to teleport to a random point in the office. You'll have to quickly find him and then punch him. If you punch too soon, like directly after the block, then it won't cool down fast enough before he starts his next round of attacks. This section of the night is brutally difficult, but I can't lie, it's probably my favorite part of the game. It's incredibly satisfying and feels really responsive. It's not janky, and every mistake will feel like your fault when you make it, which is how you know the devs really knew what they were doing. A really cool touch during this section is once you get him down to 3 health, all of the other characters will peer in through the doorways to watch the fight happen. They don't add anything to the fight, but I think it's just a really nice touch. But if you can manage to beat Golden Sonic, you will be met with one more quick time event where you will have to spam click to choose an ending. If you let him kill you, then obviously you get the bad ending. But if you can keep up with him, which really isn't that hard, thankfully, then you'll get the good ending. Knuckles beats the fuck out of not only Golden Sonic, but also every other character in the fucking restaurant and even destroys the restaurant itself. Knuckles busts his way out of the restaurant and we get the following cutscene.
Are you Knuckles the Echidna?
Yeah?
This is for you.
I'm confused. What do you mean by causing damage to property?
Well, for starters, you went ahead and attacked the spare clone we had. Not sure why it was moving, but it's severely valuable.
You mean that old junk with long arms? That thing looks as old as a rock sitting on the floor for centuries.
Some attitude, huh? Anyway, you're not only damaged the spare clone, but you went ahead and demolished the entire building, as well as also damaging the other clones.
Well, what was I supposed to do? Those clones would have killed me if I didn't do anything. Have you actually acknowledged that in your weird-shaped head?
Look, we aren't looking for excuses. Just know you aren't allowed near company grounds for the rest of your life.
Whatever. That was a strange week. At least they know not to mess with a warrior like me.
Once again, the animation is completely on point here. The artists did an absolutely wonderful job. The story mode of this game has been amazing, but as I'm sure you could have guessed by the fact that I called it story mode and not just the game, we've still got quite a bit more to talk about. So let's start by talking about the custom night challenges and the 4 new characters they introduce. The first additional character I want to talk about is Daisy. You unlock her by completing the open and closed night, which also happens to have her in it. Throughout the night, her crown has a chance to randomly appear in the office and float towards one of your doors. All you have to do is close the door the crown is floating to before it gets over there, and that's literally it. Pretty underwhelming overall. The second character we can talk about is Toad, the character you can find in the SmackDown mode. This is probably my favorite, I can't lie. Occasionally, Toad will run into the middle of your office and you'll have to spam click the shit out of him until Knuckles gives him a fucking uppercut. Tell me that isn't badass, bro, because it is. The third character we can talk about is Blaze the Cat, who you can unlock in the Flash Photography Custom Night Challenge. She is also incredibly easy, but not nearly as easy as Daisy in my opinion. Occasionally, you'll hear her laugh, which means she'll either appear on camera 2 or camera 8. Figure out which one she's on and flash her and she'll fuck off. If you can manage to flash her within 4 seconds of her laughing, it'll actually make her take a little bit longer to attack another time. So be on that shit to deal with her as little as possible. The final character that Custom Night adds is Mighty. Mighty will at random appear in either one of your doorways, slowly charging up a punch. What you have to do is very simple. You just need to make sure that when Mighty attacks that the door he is at isn't closed. Otherwise, he'll completely destroy it and you'll obviously lose to one of the other characters. So that's all of the new threats Custom Night introduces, but would you believe me if I said we're still nowhere near close to done talking about this game, as the Custom Night also gives all of the 5 main characters an additional ability to make them even harder than they already were, and it's with these additional encore challenges where I feel this game starts to get really hard. Let's start with Sonic, who probably has one of the most ass hair ripping mechanics of the entire cast. After Sonic attacks your door normally, he will attempt to sneak attack one of your doors. You'll have to check the hallway cameras to see which door he's about to attack and then hold your flashlight in that doorway until you hear him give up and leave. Most of these extra buffs will just be adding more steps to their attacks, which of course means you'll have to spend more time on them, which of course is why I feel that makes the game the hardest it can be. Mario's mechanic is also not very fun for us at all. Mario has the opportunity to completely skip his supply closet route and just head to your door with no sound cue at all, meaning you'll have to constantly check both doors now. However, he will not skip the closet 2 attacks in a row, so once you deal with his first attack, it should be pretty obvious which attack he's going to do. Yoshi's additional buff is really just more annoying than anything else. Every time you do the apple minigame in the cameras, the location of where the apple minigame is will change. It'll be marked on the camera, so it's not really that big of a deal as long as you have eyes. Tails' buff is insane. Occasionally, throughout throughout the night, a random pop-up will appear on your camera. While it's on the cameras, Tails will leave his cove at an insanely fast speed. All you have to do is close the pop-up to get this to stop, but I can promise you that you're not gonna be as fast as you think you will be. Golden Sonic's buff is, in my opinion, a bit of a nothing burger. The only thing that changes about him is when you drop your camera, he has a chance to be right in front of you. All you have to do is pull the camera back up and it'll go away. Simple sugar. Now, you think I'd be done, but I'm not, because the 4 additional characters actually also get a buff as well. So let's talk about Daisy first. Pretty simple. You'll just get less time to close the door when the crown spawns. Nothing crazy. Toad's buff is just annoying. Now when he appears in your office, he'll run from side to side, making it just a little bit harder for you to click on him a bunch, but really nothing too bad. Blaze's buff is probably the most interesting of the 4 extra characters. Once Blaze appears, fireballs will start falling from the top of the screen. For each one you touch with your mouse, you will have 2 less seconds to deal with Blaze. So it's really important that you're good at bullet hell type shit for this attack, because she really isn't playing around. Now, Mighty's buff is pretty cool. After Mighty attacks your first door, when you deal with him, he will immediately move to your other door. Except when he gets to that side, you have less than a second to make sure that door is open or you're completely fucked. Now, that is actually all of the custom night challenges that this game has to offer as far as I'm aware. However, we're still not quite done talking about this game, because it has an additional mode that you can play that's just like probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Knuckles Week at Sonic's actually has a roguelike game mode that you can play. Holy fuck, I love this so much, it's not even funny. I will suck off whoever had the idea to add this. I will literally gape my cheeks for you, please. All right, so this roguelike section is super cool. You start with all characters active, but their AI values are super low. The goal of the waves is to collect a certain quota of rings throughout the camera. With each wave, the number of rings you need to collect will go up. The game mode is pretty boring until you reach wave 5, wherein all AI will be increased by 5. And this happens with every subsequent 5 waves. Also, once you reach wave 5, you will get a random additional challenge to do each wave. The first challenge is Juicy Generator, which prevents you from gaining power from collecting rings. Instead, you will get the ability to charge your generator to 100% 6 times throughout the wave by holding a button in your office, so use them wisely. The next challenge is Red Rings. On every camera that isn't the camera with the normal rings, red rings will appear, and if you ever accidentally collect one, it will increase the speed of all of the other characters for the rest of the wave. The next challenge is something with your fucking doors. It just removes all of the door buttons from your office and adds them into the cameras. This honestly makes dealing with Mario and Sonic easier, so this is a pretty good one. The next challenge I want to talk about is pretty useless. It just prevents you from blocking, but if you aren't literally horseshit at the game, then you shouldn't even need to be blocking in the first place, so this one really isn't a problem. Now, the next challenge we'll talk about is Brutal. Occasionally throughout the wave, you'll get a character head appearing in the top corner of the screen. You will have to find that character on the fucking cameras and take a picture of them or you will die. This is easily my least favorite challenge throughout the game, for obvious reasons. I can't lie, it's brutal. The next challenge adds in those shadow Sonics we saw earlier. They will randomly spawn by your doors and prevent you from using them. Just hover your mouse over them and they'll disappear. This honestly sounds a lot worse than it actually is, so don't stress too much. The next challenge is fucking terrible. It's called Wacky HUD. And every single time you use your cameras, the HUD of the game has the chance to go to the top or bottom of the screen. It doesn't make the game hard, but it's really aids to deal with. The next challenge is called Blurry Cameras, and it does exactly what you think it would do. It blurs the cameras and grayscales them for some reason. Just take a look at this. It's awful, and I hate it. Faulty Flashlight is the name of the next challenge. This causes using your flashlight for too long to cause it to fucking break. You really have like no time at all to use it, so you better not be playing around with it for even a second. The final challenge we have to talk about is called Darkness. It does exactly what you would expect it to do. It covers your entire office in darkness, and the only way you'll be able to see anything is via your flashlight So have fun. That's all of the challenges that this mode has, and I honestly wish it had some more. Obviously, this game's purpose isn't to be a roguelike, and I know that, but adding some sort of shop into the game or making the challenges stack over nights would be cool, since you'll only ever get one challenge per wave. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Knuckles Week at Sonic's has to offer. Overall, I think this game is a fucking masterpiece. There's so much post-game after the story mode, and if there's anything you guys know about me, it's how much I fucking love post-game, and this game does not disappoint in that regard. The animations are crazy, and the soundtrack is some of the best I've ever heard as well. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me, or do you just not understand the hype around this game? Let me know in the comments below. In my Saturday Night at Freddy's video, I asked you guys who was your biggest FNAF Hear Me Out, and my favorite answer was this one by Reaper Zeo. They said Nightmarion, and the reason they gave is absolutely foul. FNAF games that leave a mark on the community. There are plenty that I could name. The Joy of Creation, Juniors, Banshee, and so many more amazing games that the community continues to talk about years and years after their initial release. And for good reasons. It's games like these that keep the community alive. Seeing other talented people create masterpieces inspires others to do the same, and gives them hope that people will respect them and their creations in the same way. 2 years ago, I covered a game by the name of Playtime with Percy, and to this day, it remains as one of the best and most memorable FNAF games I've ever played, and the community feels the same way about this game. Recently, I asked you guys if you'd like to see me remake some of my older videos, back when I didn't have the type of energy I have today, and back when I used this fucking monstrosity of a PNG. Oh. Get the fuck out of here. You guys said you'd like to see that, and I thought there would be no better game to start with than the very game that made me decide that regular FNAF game videos is something I wanted to create. So join me today as we replay through this masterpiece of a game, discuss everything there is to talk about, and answer the question of whether Playtime with Percy holds the test of time. Jumping right into night one, we don't just jump into night one, and instead start with an opening cutscene. In it, we see our character, Nick, Boofy ass name, by the way. We've got spam called by our ex-boss all night. Eventually, in the middle of the night, we're dropping cheeks on some brewskis and decide to pick up, asking what he wants. Our boss tells us that after firing us, the company went to shit. Serves you right. He says he has to sell all of the animatronics and asks us if we want to watch over the place for a week and do some other shit for $250 and a gift basket. I say fuck off, but Nick says he'll do it, and there we go. We've got our exposition, and now we can jump into the night. And that night is night one, because in case you didn't know, when you count, you do typically start with 1 and not 32. Jumping into the night, we can talk about the tools at our disposal. This game has cameras, but for the first 2 nights of the game, you literally don't even need to look at them, so I'll talk about them later. The nights in this game aren't completed by time, as this is a task-based completion night game. Now, the actual tasks we have to complete don't really make sense at all, but we're gonna roll with it. We have this little Tamagotchi toy called the Pal Percy. On each night, we will have a certain amount of mini games to do to complete the night. What does this have to do with completing the night? I have no idea. It makes no sense at all, but this game is legendary, so I'm gonna give it some plot armor from criticism because fuck you, I can, and move on. There are 3 mini games you can complete on the Pal Percy. The first is a feeding mini game where you need to collect 3 bones that drop from the top of the screen. Completing any of these mini games will give you a different amount of points. This food mini game will give you 1 point. The next minigame is a watering minigame, where you just have to shake a bottle up and down into a food bowl to get the water bowl filled with water. Because, in case you didn't know, when you hold a water bottle upside down, the water doesn't just come out, you do have to shake it like it's a thick liquid. This is my least favorite minigame, since it switches you from using A and D keys to the W and S keys, which just feels awkward when you have to quickly switch between them. Completing this minigame will net you 2 points. Final minigame is a ball throwing minigame. Percy will appear in one of the 3 locations, and you'll need to move the ball in front of him and press space to toss it to him. Do this like 5 times and the minigame ends. Completing this minigame gives you 3 points. Now you may be thinking, why would you ever do the food and water minigames when the ball minigame nets more points? Well, whenever you complete a minigame, it goes on cooldown for a bit, so you can't just spam the same one over and over again. So while you wait for the ball minigame to recharge, you can just bust out the other 2 since they're pretty quick. Alright, on to the 2 threats this night introduces, that being Charlie the Cat and Mother Moose. Usually I'd make a mommy moose joke, but this character is actually butt-ass ugly, so I'm not about to start calling her mommy. Both of these characters have the same mechanic. just with a different way of dealing with them. Inside of your office, you'll see 2 vents to both sides of you, which, by the way, I want to quickly mention how awesome the art in this game is. Just such a fun art style. Anyways, both of these characters will move around the cameras until jumping into one of these vents. Once they enter the vent, a sound cue will play, letting you know that you're about to be attacked. Depending on which of the 2 characters shows up in your vent will change how you're supposed to deal with them. If Charlie shows up, you need to put down whatever tool you're using, whether it's your cameras or your pal Percy, just to stare at him until he leaves because he's a dirty little eye slut. If Mother Moose jumps on your shit, you need to make sure you have one of your tools up to block her vision of you. Pretty simple sugar. They give you a pretty reasonable amount of time to figure out which one it is, and I honestly recommend to just keep the pal Percy up the whole time, because even if Charlie shows up, you'll be able to tell it's him and pull it down before he fucks your shit up. So yeah, obviously night 1 is pretty simple. Most tend to be that way. So let's jump into the post-night minigame, because this night has plenty of them and they're all unique and actually interesting, which just makes me giggle like a schoolgirl. That was me giggling like a school. You get it. The post night 1 minigame has us setting up prices to sell the animatronics at, which also gives us a look at every other character before we even have to deal with them, which I think is pretty cool. In this minigame, the main goal is to set the price of each animatronic to its actual price. These numbers by default will be smaller than the needed price. You need to reject the price if it doesn't match, and then type in a 2-digit password, which will increase the price by $100. Repeat this until they match, and then press accept. Once you do this with 3 animatronics, the minigame will upgrade and get harder. During this time, the password you'll have to type in goes up to 4 digits, and the screen will be glitched the whole time just to give me a headache. Also, during this section, the threat on this minigame will get more aggressive as well. What's that? I didn't mention the threat on this minigame? Well, allow me to do that right now. Charlie the cat is the threat during this minigame. His attack is really simple. Occasionally, you'll hear his big-ass clown feet stomping towards you. When you hear this, all you need to do is hide under the desk until he walks away. So, during the aggression part, he'll do this more often, and instead of just walking by like he normally would, he stands there for a bit before continuing to walk, just wasting time. This doesn't really affect anything though, since you don't have to complete the task in a specific amount of time. However, after completing each minigame and each night, you'll get a letter grade, and the faster you complete it, the higher the score will be. So if you want to farm for higher letters, then this will matter. This does, however, bring up a speedrunning strategy that you can use to bypass this second phase entirely. The second phase only triggers after you accept 3 animatronics. So if you just match the prices for all of the animatronics and then accept all of them one after another in quick succession, you won't have to deal with the second phase of this minigame at all. Thank you to my researcher Trizzly Bear for telling me that. He has no life to this game very badly. Degenerate. Moving on to night 2, we have one more threat to talk about, that being Farmer Felix. I can't lie, I don't really know what type of animal he's supposed to be. Maybe it's a ferret? I don't really know. An otter? But lucky for us, that doesn't actually matter, because what does actually matter is what he does. And is it a big problem for us? Well, like I said last night, we still currently have no reason to ever look at the cameras. So thankfully, he's no camera nonsense character. On this night, you will see a color panel has appeared in the top left corner of the office. If you have colorblind mode on like I do, these color squares will also have shapes on them. Thank you, devs. I appreciate that a lot, actually. Occasionally, you will see Felix start walking across the hallway through the massive window in front of you. His eyes will be glowing one of 4 possible colors, and before he gets to the end of your hallway, you'll have to toggle the correct button on the panel. If you have colorblind mode on, then a cutout with the shape will appear in the window as well. Incredibly easy character, but you'll soon see how all of these characters synergize to become some of the most challenging gameplay I've ever played. This game is so fucking cool, by the way, if I haven't said that yet. Also should mention that as we move forward through the nights, that the amount of points we'll need on the pal Percy will increase. Generally speaking, making each night take longer than the last. So this night has more points than last night, blah blah blah. Let's move on to the post night 2 minigame. This minigame is significantly harder and a hell of a lot longer than the last. This time around, we're playing on an arcade machine for some reason, and our goal is to beat the high score, which is 6,000 points. We do this by piloting a spaceship and shooting UFOs, kind of like Galactica. Each ship gives you a different amount of points. Some shoot back at you, and there are even asteroids to get in your fucking way and waste as much time as possible. There are also several power-ups that can fall down for you to collect as well. One that gives you a shield, one that increases your fire rate for a short duration, and one that heals 1 health for you. Of course, if you lose all your lives, you're gonna be cookies. Just like last night, this minigame also has a threat for us to deal with. This time around, it's Mother Moose. She will also appear behind you at certain times. When she does, a sound cue will play. However, it's not very loud, and since you'll be playing an incredibly loud arcade machine, hearing her sound cue could actually prove to be a bit difficult. When Mother Moose is behind you, all you have to do is turn around and flash her with a camera that you have for some reason, and she'll go away. Just like the previous minigame, after you reach a certain point value, it will increase to phase 2, which changes the task itself and the threat's difficulty. The game changes by adding more asteroids and a new UFO type that just kind of wiggles around. I don't really know. It's not hard to deal with at all, so maybe I'm missing something here. Comment down below if I am. The real change you should worry about is Mother Moose, since now she will require you to flash her twice. And there's a pretty damn long cooldown between flashes, so if you don't catch her fast, chances are you'll die before you can flash her the second time. But overall, this minigame is still relatively easy, just long, so with that, we can move on to night 3. Night 3 time, baby! And it's on this night where we get introduced to the main attraction, Percy himself. Percy is a very simple character, but he does add a lot of pressure if he times up poorly with other threats. Percy will show up in your long-ass window. Throughout the night, he will slowly progress his way towards your door. Once he gets to your door, he'll start pounding on it. All you have to do is hold the door while he pounds on it until he decides to stop. He's not a challenge at all. Of course not. His mechanic is super simple. The actual stressful part of Percy comes with him lining up with Mother Moose or Felix. If he decides to start pounding on your shit when Mother Moose shows up, it's just GG for you. The other threat introduced on this night is one of the tiny poodles. Since there are 3 of them, I know they all have names. I don't remember them. I'm not looking them up. I'm lazy, leave me alone. I actually think one of them appeared on night 2 as well, but I never saw it, so I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't exist until I do see it. The poodle introduced on this night will randomly peek into your office through the door. If you don't kick her ass out in time, she'll hold the door completely open, which will allow Percy to flash step into your office at Mach 20, collar you up, and start walking you like a dog. Well, the tables have turned. This threat is also super easy to deal with. Just close the fucking door when you see her, and it's not a big deal. What is a big deal, however, is the long-ass post-night minigame for this night, where we go toe-to-toe with Rowan Rat. During this minigame, we're tasked with, I don't even know. Like, I don't actually know what we're doing. I think we're just fixing cameras or something. I don't know the actual task though. In order to fix these cameras or whatever, we have to do a variety of tasks. The first you'll likely see is a minigame where you have to push various shapes into larger versions of those shapes. It's very weird, but just look at the screen and it makes sense, and it just takes a long time. And that's really the only problem with this entire minigame. Hot damn, does it take a long ass time. Another minigame you'll commonly see is a big ass maze that you'll have to move your character through. I actually really like this one. I'm kind of the god of mazes, so I never make a mistake. And editor, I swear to fucking God, if you put in the one time where I made a wrong turn during this maze section, I'm gonna gut you like a fucking deer. Don't play with me. The next minigame you'll find is another maze minigame where 2 little dudes will be shooting projectiles at you, and all you have to do is not get hit by them and survive for like 10 seconds. There's also another version of this minigame where instead of just surviving, you'll have to move around the maze and collect a few energy symbols for the minigame to end. This stupid fucking survival maze is the one I got the most, which I hate because it takes so long for it to finish. Of course, I said we go head to head with Rowan Rat. So what does he do? Well, behind us there are 4 holes in the wall. For some reason, keep in mind, this is an establishment and these are holes with dirt and sharp rocks. Kids establishment, this doesn't make sense. You'll randomly hear him enter one of these holes. During this minigame, the sound is actually omnidirectional, so you'll be able to tell which side he's attacking. Except there's one big issue with this. When you hear something behind you and it's in your left ear, when you turn around, the sound will be in your right ear. That's just the nature of turning around, right? Well, I think a lot of the time in games, we're not really thinking about that, but it's present here. So when you hear Rowan in your right ear, when you turn around, he'll be on your left side. So that's just a bit confusing, but not bad at all once you've got it down. All you have to do is hold your flashlight on him and it'll go away. And of course, once you reach the halfway point, the minigame upgrades and becomes harder. Not only do the minigames all get glitched and give me a damn headache, but the real issue is Rowan. Except he's not an issue at all, and I can't lie, I'm over exaggerating. It's not that bad at all. Once you flash him the first time, he'll move to the other side of the room and you'll have to flash him again. No problem at all. The biggest issue is really just the long ass minigames. Now, who's ready for night 4? Moving on to night 4 is where this game finally starts to show what's in store for us. And rest assured, this night will start to get you stressing a little bit, mainly because of the brand new threat it introduces. However, before we start talking about that, we need to talk about the cutscene we got before this night. Nick calls the boss man and leaves him a voicemail telling him that the week is going well. He mentions the malfunctioning animatronics and, more importantly, the fact that Pal Percy is acting very weird. Which, yes, it has. During night 3, about halfway through, you'll notice that the face on Pal Percy completely disappears. So yeah, needless to say, there's something not so right about this Pal Percy. On the way out of the building, we find a conveniently placed DVD on the floor. Of course, we get on our klepto shit and we take the DVD and head home to see what's on it. We turn the TV on and pop the DVD in, but nothing happens. So, and get this, instead of turning the TV off and going to bed, Nick leaves the TV on, static running, and then goes to bed. Once Nick goes to bed, then the DVD turns on. Convenient, right? On this DVD is a recall note for all Pal Percys. Apparently they were programmed wrong and the company iterates that safety is of top priority. Why did you program something that could have been unsafe? I have no idea. Companies can be retarded. So yeah, Nick doesn't see the recall notice and he's gonna continue to use this fucked up little thing throughout the rest of the game. Surely this won't end poorly. All right, with that out of the way, let's start talking about the actual night, shall we? On this night, we have to deal with easily the most annoying character I've ever met in my goddamn life, that being Rowan Rat. Holy dick, I can't stand him. His mechanic is so awkward, it's 100% a skill issue. I am so damn bad at dealing with him. The way Rowan works is generally simple. He moves between cameras 1, 2, 3, and 4, except the key detail here is you can't see him since he burrows under the ground. On your camera, you can swap to a radar menu. This radar menu scans for movement. You'll need to be watching this radar menu to see which camera has Rowan movement. Once you see movement on these radars, you'll need to switch to the accompanying camera and shock it to make him leave. You only have 30 shocks, so you can't just spam all of the cameras whenever you want. Again, it's not hard to deal with at all. However, just remembering to go do it is my problem because I'm retarded. Anyways, moving on to the other threat this night introduces, which is one of the other tiny poodles. This one is annoying as dick. Occasionally, you will see a small notification next to your camera button. When you see this, that means Dickhead Poodle is attacking. That poodle will then teleport to a random camera and you'll need to find the camera and just stare at her until she disappears. Yeah, one of those annoying ass characters. Thankfully, if you beat the night quickly, you won't really have to deal with this poodle all too much, so thank the Lord for that. The weird shit on this night is that the Pal Percy will start making these weird faces, so that's fun and totally not like a bad time at all. Now, moving on to the post-night minigame, which is thankfully nowhere near as long as the last one. During this minigame, we're tasked with repairing Farmer Felix. Doing this is very simple. We start by unscrewing a plate on the back of his head, and then we can jump into his VR vision and start going to town. Not like skull fucking him, that'd just be weird. I mean fixing him. What's that? Oh, you didn't think I was talking about skull fucking him? You didn't think that was just me? Okay, let's just move on. In order to fix him, we have 4 tasks to complete. The first requires us to put 9 gears together 3 times. At the bottom of the screen, we'll see 3 colored gears and 9 colored slots for them. All you have to do is drag the correct gears to the correct slots. Simple. Do this 3 times and task 1 is done. The next task confused me, but that's because I'm a moron. We're given 2 prompts. What you have to do is completely ignore what the prompts say and instead focus on the numbers above the boxes. This just goes back to this first game's post-night minigame. Reset the prompts until these 2 numbers match and then approve them. Do this 3 times and task 2 is done. Task 3 requires us to just crank this little lever thing. Crank it too fast and it'll overheat. Crank it too slow and the meter will go down. So it really just requires you to have a good balance of cranking. Kind of like jerking off so you don't tear your foreskin. Jesus Christ. Anyways, the final task is just Simon Says for like 6 rounds. Really fucking easy. The threat on this night is surprisingly not Felix himself, but is instead the 2 little fucking poodles we've been dealing with in the night section. Occasionally while working, you'll hear them appear. You'll have to exit the menu, find them and click on them and they'll go away. Simple. Once you make half progress, the minigame gets more challenging, except not really. The only big issue is that the poodles get much more aggressive. Honestly, even before this, they were the most aggressive characters I've seen throughout this entire game, so that's super fun, and you have to click on them twice instead of once, so that's not a big deal at all. Moving on to Night 5, there's actually nothing new to talk about here, as no new threats are introduced, and it's just a harder version of Night 4. However, one thing I noticed on this night was the third and final little poodle. This guy will pop up in your window, and if you don't finish a task on your pal Percy in time, it's GG. This is really a non-issue since you'll be doing tasks constantly the entire night, so not really sure why he's even here in all reality. Again, this night is just a harder version of Night 4, so not much to talk about here, so let's just move on to the post-Night 5 minigame, which is also incredibly lackluster. All we have to do is fix up Percy by taking off his collar, doing a bunch of weird shit in his chest that in all reality wouldn't fix anything, and we're done. Only to realize that clearly we fucked up something because Percy starts smoking like a trailer trash mother. We get a call from our boss. He tells us that we can use a substitute battery if we can find one, and hangs up like a dick. We get the idea to use pal Percy as a substitute and do exactly that. And would you guess? It actually happens to work. And the credits roll and playtime with Percy comes to a close. Except if you know anything about this game or have watched my oldest dick video about this game, then you know that's not actually true, as we start seeing some weird shit in the credits, only for Percy's arm to grab the credits and rip them off the screen. And then we see the pal Percy go fucking nutty. Running away in the dark, we hide in the closet, turn the lights on, and hear the pal Percy that has now taken over Percy's animatronic body is looking for us. We grab our camera system that we definitely would not have had because it was in the office. Why would we take the camera to the room to fix Percy? And even if we did do that, why would we then take the camera system in the dark while we're getting chased to a closet? That doesn't make sense. Anyways, we grab that camera system and an older pal Percy model that was in the closet and prepare to defend ourselves. This section acts as both another night and the final boss of this game. And of course is my personal favorite section of the entire game because it uses the music that I've been using in my Dxtr White videos since I first covered this game over 2 years ago. Holy fuck, the music in this game is so damn good. This section introduces so many new threats and so many new mechanics. However, it is split up into 5 sections, basically being 5 more nights to this game, which I think is really cool. The way we progress is the same as the base game. Just use the old model Percy to gather enough points and the section is complete. Except that's for a different reason this time. By completing these tasks, we get a charge. We're told to gather 5 charges to stop Pal. However, we're not actually told why that stops him. Maybe the plan is to shock him? I'm not really sure. The game seriously doesn't tell us. Now, let's start talking about the threats that the first section of Friday morning introduces. Obviously, Pal is active, so let's talk about his attack. Occasionally, using the 2 monitors near the ceiling of this room, you will see Pal ask you to find something. What you have to do during this time is open your cameras and find the random camera that Pal went to. Since he's the only character right now, this actually isn't that annoying. Once you find him, he will show you an item he wants. Once you see it, that item will appear on a different random camera and you will need to find that item and click on it. All right, game. Let's have a chat real quick. I just said that the find them on the camera mechanic wasn't that bad. And then immediately after me saying that, you decided that adding another find them on the camera mechanic directly afterwards was a good idea? Yeah? Just slide that in there like I wouldn't notice anything. Fuck you think this is, huh? Watch yourself. Don't let it slip again, buddy. So we have to gather a charge, but the mini games you need to do are different from the original. So let's go over the 3 new games. The first just has you match 3 patterns of shapes worth 1 point. The second requires you to move a ball through a maze, netting 2 points. And the final makes you catch several fish and spend 600 years doing so, because holy shit, this one feels like it takes forever. And boom, you get 3 points from doing this one. After gathering your first charge, 2 new threats are introduced, marking section 2. The first character introduced here is a brute. I'm just going to pretend like Brute is the actual name. Brute will slowly rise from camera 1. Don't worry, you don't need to stare at him, thank God. But once he leaves, he'll try to smash through the walls next to your door. You'll hear him banging on it, and when you do, you'll need to pull a cart in front of the wall to prevent him from bustling his way in. Hold it in front of the wall until the banging stops, and you're all good. The other character introduced here is, I think, not totally sure, one of the little poodles, but also all wiry and fucked up looking. This little asshole will randomly drop down in front of one of the walls next to your door. All you have to do is quickly drag the cart out in front of him and ram it into him as hard as you can, like that one video of the child predator in Walmart getting fucking decimated by a cart. This part is very satisfying. I do personally enjoy this section quite a bit. After collecting the next charge, section 3 begins and one new threat is introduced. And on top of that, Pal's main attack changes. So let's talk about that first. Now, instead of doing the double find them on the camera bullshit, you will hear him running as fast as he can towards your door. Once he gets to your door, you need to hold it closed while he bangs on it until he gives up and leaves. He runs down the hallway for a pretty long time, giving you enough time to finish the Pal Percy task you were working on or deal with another more active threat before he arrives. What other active threat could I be talking about? Well, that would be the other threat this section introduces. I don't know what it is, and the game just calls it something when you're first learning about it, so fuck it. I'm gonna call it something. Something will rise from camera 5. If it leaves the camera, you'll hear a loud shock sound effect, letting you know it's time to deal with it. You will have to find which camera it went to and use one of your shocks like Rowan Rat on it before it books it to your office and destroys your insides. So just another find them on the camera mechanic. I'd be really pissed, but at least they got rid of Percy's double find them on the camera mechanic. So that's not so bad, I suppose. I can deal with that. I can handle it. Now, if they added another one, that would be crazy. After finishing the next charge, we see Pal laugh all up in our shit. So it's about to start getting really crazy. And crazy is right, as it's this section where I feel this part starts to get really hard because there's so much to focus on. The first new threat on this section is roaches. Not literal bugs, just little fucked up Pal Percys. They will be crawling into your room throughout the section. If they appear on your screen, either on top, sides, or bottom, you'll need to click and drag them to toss them away. If too many accumulate, it's over. The other threat introduced in this section is one of those little poodle dickheads. This one will fuck your vision. And when this happens, that poodle will teleport to a random camera and you'll have to find it and stare at it. Really? Another find them on the camera mechanic? Are we really doing this right now? You got rid of Percy's find them on the camera mechanic, but then you just go ahead and replace it with 2 more. You're on thin fucking ice, game. Don't even play with me. After you get the last charge, you have one more section to go through, in which 2 more threats are introduced. I know we already have a lot of shit to deal with, but this game isn't quite done blowing me up from the back and using my hair like a handle. Pal gets another attack during this section, wherein he enters your office and makes you play one of those cup mini games, you know, where he puts a ball under one, shuffles them, and then makes you guess which ball the cup is under. Obviously, if you guess wrong, he just kills you immediately, so I'd drop everything and focus on him once he enters. He will not wait for you to look at him before he starts shuffling the cups if you're doing something else. The final threat is a non-issue, but still insane that they're doing everything they can to ruin my day. Occasionally, one of the monitors at the top of the screen will display the final little asshole poodle. All you need to do is click the monitor to turn it off. Really easy. After you get your last charge, the night still isn't over. Now you have to survive another 60 seconds. Thankfully, you don't have to use your Pal Percy, it's just survival, but all of the characters ramp it up. Survive the final 60 seconds, and it's finally over. For real this time. Altogether, this goes on to be one of the most stressful nights I've ever played. Really, looking back on it, it's not even that hard, but holy shit, there's so much to keep track of. Double find them on the camera mechanics. A robot constantly pounding on my walls, wasting my time. Poodles jumping down on my shit. Poodles fucking my monitors. Poodles showing up at my door and banging on it. Poodles fucking everywhere. Cockroaches all over my fucking face. And a goddamn fishing minigame that takes 90 fucking years, for fuck's sake. Everybody needs to hop off my fucking dick. There's so many of you. Why does everybody want a piece of Dxtr White today? What the fuck is going on? Back up. Back the fuck up. Cockroaches here. Robots there. And don't forget the poodles fucking everywhere. Oh my fucking lord. Go the fuck away. Fuck. Glad I got that out of the way. Anyways, after successfully completing the night, we get one final cutscene. Is it over? Do they know I'm still in here? I need to get out and leave. However I can. Is Percy still after me? Where are those creatures? Are they dead now? Can I get out of here? Where's Percy?
You think you won, you little prick? We were supposed to be best pals, Nick. I was supposed to stick by you forever and ever, and now you're just going to leave me? You can't. I won't let you. You can still take me with you. We can still be best pals forever. This is what Pal Percys were made for, Nick. You understand that, right? So come on and...
I'm not.
What did you say?
I'm not taking you with me.
All right then. Suit yourself.
But wait, really?
choosing yourself over your friend. That's cold. I did give you a chance, Nick, but it looks like I'll have to end this friendship for myself. Permanently.
Are we clear? Are you sure? All right then, send it.
Did you say something? It almost sounded like... Nick? Are you there? Won't you help me? Your best pal, Percy! Huh. Where are you going? Then come back and help me! Don't just leave me here! We're best pals!
Nick! Nick! Is that you over there? There you are. We were wondering if you'd got out already, so we assumed you did, and you didn't tell me pal Percy was... You didn't say he could do all that! There were wires, and they were alive, and... Slow down, son. They can't do that. They were recalled, didn't you know?
Huh?
Calm down, let me explain. Those pal Percys went absolutely crazy the more people used them. We never found out why. I assumed it was because they used the same batteries as the robots, but I never really thought of it much after they were recalled. So that's what was on the disc. Huh. Only I got it working. So you see, none of them exist now. Technically. But I guess we forgot about one of them in there. I hope it didn't try to kill you or something. Yeah. Thank goodness it didn't. Anyway, come on. Let's go get something to eat. I'm starving. Oh, okay. Sure.
Bam, 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 bam.
And with that, the main story mode of Playtime with Percy comes to a close. Overall, I think the story mode is great. The post-night sections are fantastic. The jump into a completely different area with a whole new set of threats to learn makes this game feel like it does something that no other game does. And even though there are a few things about the story that don't really make sense, mainly in my opinion, why Nick left his static-ridden TV on overnight, weird shit like that, I still think this game is just as good as it was 2 years ago. But judging by me mentioning that the story mode comes to a close, I'm sure you can guess that yes, we're still not done talking about this game, as there are 4 custom night characters that you can unlock to make the custom night challenges even more difficult. So let's talk about those. So, the custom night of this game is split into 2 sections. The normal game office custom night, and of course the later closet section. Each of these sections have 2 additional characters that you can unlock for them. So I'll start by talking about the office section characters first. Sunny Sheath can be unlocked by completing the Flock o' Poodles custom night. The way she works is pretty simple. She is in your office throughout the night. Occasionally, her mask will fall off and be in one of 3 locations in your office. All you have to do is drag the mask back to her face, and it's no problem. Helios can be unlocked by completing the Sunny Day custom night challenge. The way he works is a bit goofy. He will slowly make his way from the center of the building to either side of the building and try to attack you from there. He will go to any of the 4 corners like Rowan will. All you have to do is shock him when he gets there, pushing him back a phase and stunning him for a short period. Easily one of the most annoying characters in the office section, right up there with Rowan. On the closet section of things, the first character you can get is Polly Possum by completing the Possum Peril Custom Night Challenge. She's really just a time waster of a character. She will slowly come down from the ceiling, and when she laughs, you need to make sure you have no tools up, just like Charlie Cat. By the way, let's spoil the mood a little bit. If anybody is super familiar with this game, you may know that originally Polly Possum wasn't originally in the game, and was at first a rabbit character named Viola. She was replaced with Polly because the creator of Viola was accused of grooming a minor. And while it's seemingly confirmed that that happened, there have been rumors that she also touched a minor inappropriately as well. However, there's no explicit evidence of that ever happening. So yeah. Why are there so many disgusting people in this community, bro? I hate it. Truman is the last character you can get from beating the Festive Friends Custom Night Challenge. He's basically a nuisance character. That makes 2 just for this section. as if every character already wasn't just that. He will show ads on either of your two devices. Just make sure you click off them and don't let them sit for too long. No big deal. But overall, that's really all Playtime with Percy has to offer. Overall, even with my few frustrations with this game, it's amazing. Everybody knows that. This game was perfect when it came out, and it's still perfect now. And actually, as of writing this, 3 months ago, Fazzy confirmed that Playtime with Percy 2 is being worked on. And you better believe I'm going to be covering it the moment it comes out. The moment! But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Or do you think this game has lost its charm a bit since release and other games have overshadowed it? Let me know in the comments below. In my Bloody Nights with Froggy video, I asked you guys what upcoming FNAF game of 2026 you were most excited for and why. And my favorite answer was this one by Rawlishes. They said Far From Land 2, and I honestly didn't even know that that was a game that was coming out. So that's awesome. I'll totally cover it when it releases. What is the most disturbing thing you've ever seen while playing a FNAF game? That's a serious question. I really want you to think about it. I'm sure a lot of people are already thinking of the third tape from the original Dormitibus, but that's not quite what I mean. I mean, what's the most disturbing thing you've seen? Literally seen with your own 2 eyes, or one if you're half blind. Let me cut to the chase. The game we'll be talking about today is the Fazbear Tomb, made by Maroon Fox, who, fun fact, I've actually known for many years, and he reached out to me to ask me to voice some of the characters in this game. Rest assured, that's not why I'm talking about it. The Fazbear Tomb has some of the most shocking imagery I've ever seen in any FNAF game ever. So let's waste no time and jump right into it. With nowhere better to start than night one is where we will start, and we actually get to walk into the building instead of just being dropped right into our office, which I always think is pretty cool. Starting outside, we enter the building and walk into the dining area where we can see Bonnie and Freddy. Chica is also on stage, you can tell because you can see her feet, but unfortunately the rest of her body is blocked by Freddy's enormous belly, which is just not ideal. Moving to our office, we sit down and I notice something immediately which I think is really cool. That being, instead of turning like in most FNAF games, you can actually turn 360 degrees inside of your office. It's such a small touch, but I really like it. Moving on to the tools at our disposal. There really isn't much to be said here. We have cameras and 3 doors to our office. 2 of the doors can be held shut, but the 3rd door cannot, instead allowing us to play dead outside of it. Why can't we play dead next to all of the doors? That I don't really have the answer to. Oh yeah, we can also shine our light in all of the doorways, so that's nice too. We get a phone call from the phone guy, pretty typical stuff. He gives us the normal spiel of how to deal with the characters, which might make you think they'll all be activated on this night, but you'd be wrong. For some reason, we're told how to deal with every character on night 1, even though only 1 threat is introduced on this night. Not really sure why, but whatever. Oh yeah, and one more super cool thing about this game, the phone guy is played by me, so that was super fun.
To make sure he doesn't get you, you must... Well, that is all the training for today. Good luck on your shift and have a killer time at Freddy's.
There's 3 doors. What do you mean? What do I have to do? Also, why am I'm talking to myself? It feels weird. Moving on to the 1 threat this night introduces, that being Bonnie, who is as basic can get. Bonnie's goal is to attack the 1 door in your office with no actual door on it. He'll wander around the cameras before getting there. You can flash your light to double check that he is indeed there, and once you know he is, just play dead. Phone guy says to do so for 10 seconds. Kind of odd how he just knows how long you're supposed to do that for, but I'm gonna look past it. Something I'm not a super huge fan of in this game is just how long the nights are, especially night 1. You'll notice that each minute in this game is about 1.5 seconds in real life. And with a night like night 1, where only Bonnie is active, and at the same time during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually never even had Bonnie come to my door, and I was playing Raid Shadow Legends the whole time. It just leads to this night feeling like a slog. But after making it to 6 AM, we complete the night, and we can talk about the post-night 1 minigame, which may just be one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life. During this minigame, we have to take apart Bonnie because there's been complaints of a bad odor coming from him. We start by opening his head, removing his arms, and cracking open his torso. Removing the plate, we see this. That's right. We actually get to see the corpse of one of the missing children stuffed inside of Bonnie. Truly one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen in a FNAF game before. I don't think any other game that I know of has ever actually directly shown you the bodies of the children. So needless to say, seeing this was crazy. After that shocking reveal, we get a very odd cutscene. A large amount of words are said, but I can't really make out most of it. I'll play it here with subtitles of what I could make out, but I'll need your guys' help in the comments to decipher everything.
But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well?
Night two, here we are. Let's just say action from these robots picks up quite a bit on this night. Night 2 only introduces one new threat, that being Chica, as I'm sure you could have guessed. And I'm gonna be honest, Chica brings up a really big glaring flaw that this game has. That being that the gameplay is boring as fuck. But let's explain what Chica does first. Chica will move around the cameras until making her way to your second door. Once she approaches, you can flash your light to check she's there, and if she is, hold the door closed until you hear her go away. This is also the first night I actually had Bonnie attack me, and something I noticed about these two is just how long it takes for both of them to leave your door. It's like a solid 10 seconds, at least. Which, yes, I know the phone guy said, but I didn't think he literally meant it. But can you notice the issue this game already has? Both Bonnie and Chica do the exact same thing. And while sure, you could argue that Bonnie and Chica do the same thing in a lot of games, but when the cast of characters is so small, I think that should make you more inclined to make everyone do something unique. This franchise has been around for over a decade. I would like to see the community do something different, and I feel like this game tries to hide the fact that everything is the same. Sure, you have 3 doors, but 2 of them are just a close them when someone is there mechanic, and the other is a play dead mechanic, which by the way is literally exactly the same as holding the door closed, except there's no animation, the screen just turns black. And this is what I mean. It feels like the game is trying to make you think that Bonnie has a different mechanic from Chica because it calls it something different. But in reality, you're just holding control for both of them, so it feels a bit disingenuous. But on the other hand, the character AI has definitely ramped up on this night. During night 1, I was never attacked by Bonnie the entire time. This time around, I was attacked by him a good handful of times, and Chica tried to rail me a couple of times too. So at least during this night, I couldn't play another game at the exact same time like I could on night 1, which is a good sign of progress. Oh yeah, I should probably mention the phone call on this night too, since it is pretty interesting. It seems like a previous night guard was able to intercept the phone's connection. Don't ask how, just accept it. He talks about how the robots are out to kill. We already knew that. And he explains Foxy and Freddy's mechanics, which is good since the phone guy on night 1 cut out before he could finish talking about Freddy and how he worked. I'm obviously not going to tell you how to deal with Freddy and Foxy right now since they aren't even active at this point, so let's just move on to the post-night 2 minigame. Something I want to quickly preface is that technically these are not post-night minigames, they're technically pre-night minigames, but I'm so used to talking about the minigames after talking about the night. Oh, just know that this minigame I'm about to talk about isn't a post-night 2 minigame, but is really a pre-night 3 minigame. Who really cares though? It's all in the same order. In this game, we play as a very slow, fat child. Not based. The most horrendous, creepy-looking 8-bit Spring Bonnie I've ever seen in my life appears to tell us he has a gift for us. A very special one. We follow him through 2 rooms and see a gift box on the ground, but Spring Bonnie is nowhere in sight. Upon approaching the box, Spring Bonnie sprints at Mach 46 in our direction and presumably murks us, ending the minigame. So, Not nearly as interesting as last night's minigame, but maybe this showed what happened just before what we saw in that last minigame. Or who knows, maybe this is one of the other dead children altogether. Right now it's hard to say, but let's continue on to night 3. On night 3, I was expecting one new character to be introduced, since it seems we're only going to be getting the 4 characters from the first FNAF game. Introducing one every night makes sense to me. But no, we have 2 threats to talk about on this night. So let's start with the least interesting one, Freddy. Freddy works, quite literally, in the exact same way as Bonnie and Chica, with the exact same attack pattern and the exact same way of dealing with him. He will attack your third door, except he doesn't like to be flashed by your light. So if you ever do, he'll kill you instantly, even if you close the door directly afterwards, which doesn't make sense. So this brings up a question of how you're supposed to know when Freddy is there. Well, this game tells you that you'll be able to hear Freddy breathing when he's outside of your door. However, I was unable to hear the breathing ever. Or if I was able to hear the breathing, I was unable to tell it was breathing since there are so many other fucking random noises that happen constantly throughout this game. You wanna know why I never heard the breathing sound effect? I checked the code of this game myself, and yeah, it's literally never programmed to play the breathing sound. Here is the code for the breathing sound. You see that start sound, pick random 1 to 4? There are 4 breathing sounds, and this plays one of those at random. You'll notice that these 2 blocks aren't attached to anything, and I never moved them. By the way, there is nothing that triggers these 2 blocks. This is all of the code for Freddy reaching your door. You'll notice a few weird things about it. That it starts by running a broadcast for Bonnie arriving. Spoiler alert, I have no idea why it's called Bonnie Arrive. The only thing this broadcast does is run a function in another sprite that plays footstep sounds. The other weird thing you'll notice about this code is that, yes, it actually does start sound, but not sounds 1 to 4. Instead, sounds 5 to 10. Well, what are sounds 5 to 10? You might ask. Well, they're footstep sounds. All of them. Sounds 5 through 10 are all footstep sounds. But why the fuck would you even need to play footstep sounds if right before that block you have the Bonnie Arrive broadcast that plays fucking footstep sounds? And why are there breathing sounds in this game that are never used? Pretty much making it impossible to know when Freddy is ever at your door. I have no idea. And yes, by the way, I checked everything in the AI management code, and nowhere besides those 2 blocks that are detached and never called that I showed earlier does the code ever call for sounds 1 through 4 to ever be played. I have no idea what's going on. But worry not, I found a strategy for dealing with Freddy. We know because of the Bonnie Arrive script that whenever any character shows up at the door, we'll hear footsteps. Well, whenever I heard footsteps, I'd check Bonnie's door and Chica's door since I could safely flash my light on them. If I didn't see either of those 2, then I'd know it has to be Freddy who's at my door, and, fun fact, Freddy doesn't appear to make footstep sound cues when he leaves either, so that's just great. Anyways, let's talk about the other threat this night introduces, Foxy. Foxy is pretty simple, but he is different from the other 3, thankfully. Foxy is in Pirate's Cove. Occasionally, throughout the night, he'll start humming like he tends to do. When he does, all you have to do is go to his camera and flash him with your camera light a few times and he'll close the curtain. So he doesn't even really do what normal Foxy does. Not that that's an issue, just thought I'd point it out. So, here's what the core gameplay loop boils down to right now. Start the night, literally sit there and do nothing until you hear Foxy humming or footstep sounds. Deal with Foxy if you hear him, and if you hear footstep sounds, check Bonnie, then Chica. Deal with either of them if you see them, and if you don't see them, close Freddy's door until you hear the next sound cue. Repeat for 8 fucking minutes since each minute in this game is 1.5 seconds, and you'll beat the night. Meaning we can move on to the post-night 3 minigame, technically pre-night 4 minigame. This is just a cutscene, but a creepy one at that. The marionette box opens and the marionette crawls out with the most disgusting sound I've ever heard. She offers us a gift box and says that if we take it, we'll be gifted new life and that he'll never be able to hurt us again. This tells me that we're the soul of a child in this cutscene, and of course, the marionette is reanimating us. We accept the gift and the marionette crawls back into its sticky sounding box, and we move on to night 4. Night 4 adds nothing new to the gameplay loop. However, it is where I noticed a plethora of bugs in this game so horrific it's hard to describe. And pretty much every single bug stems from Freddy and the fact he will literally just ignore your door. He will also sometimes not play his footstep sound cue when he gets to the door. Oh yeah, and this part isn't a bug, but multiple characters can attack at the same time, guaranteeing that you lose the night because of RNG. That sounded rather loud. Good thing I went and checked. I said, good thing I went and checked. Fuck! Okay, well, you can't put Bonnie and Freddy there at the same time, dude. That's literally impossible. Impossible to deal with. Really, bro? Bonnie, walk off. What the fuck, dude? This game fucking reeks. Holy shit. It's a broken fucking mess. So yeah, doesn't that just look like a ton of fun? Because it wasn't. Anyways, since there isn't actually anything new to talk about, we can move on to night 5, which actually does introduce something pretty sick. But of course, before we talk about it, we need to talk about the pre-night 5 minigame. It's a pretty shitty, boring minigame. It's literally just the opening to FNAF 2. We're in the POV of Freddy, and we can look back and forth at Bonnie and Chica. Nothing super crazy or groundbreaking happens. We don't even see the marionette like we do in FNAF 2. Alright, who cares? Now we can move on to night 5. Well, let's just say that night 5 is something different, acting as this game's boss fight night. Every character we've seen up until this point has been disabled, and we hear the doors to the entrance of the building open, only to see none other than William Afton inside of the Spring Bonnie suit enter the building. That's right, the boss fight is with Afton. Why is he here? I have no idea. Is it ever explained to us why he wants to come kill us? Just a security guard that he himself likely hired? Not at all. But are we gonna complete it nonetheless? Yes. Honestly, calling this night a boss fight is pretty generous, as Afton does not do anything interesting or different from the rest of the characters. He can attack 2 of your 3 doors, and I'll talk about why in a bit. He can attack the 2 doors that, well, actually have doors. Obviously, when he's there, just close the door and he'll leave. However, Afton is faster than every other character we've seen so far, so tracking him on the cameras to tell which door it is he actually went to is really important, since you won't have time to check both doors without him killing you. Once again, like Freddy, even if the fucking door is closed. Hello? Ah, bitch! The door's closed, dude. The bugs in this game, they're unbearable. They're unbearable. Unbearable, dude. The door was closed. Now, you may be wondering, why doesn't Afton attack the door that Bonnie attacks? The one with no door? Well, that would be because it'd be impossible to defend yourself. You might think that that would make it the perfect door for him to attack, but from a gameplay standpoint, you really can't have him attack that door, now can you? Because he's not going to believe that you're already dead, since he's a human and not a stupid fucking robot. So this once again brings up my point, why even make the first door's mechanic playing dead? Why not just make it another door? It would literally function the exact same way, plus it would give Afton another means of attack and make his boss fight actually make a little bit more sense and slightly more difficult. But let's even look past all of that. What happens once you beat the night? Well, get this. Afton enters the fucking office anyways. So like, what is the point of whatever we just did? Clearly he has the power to be able to get into your office regardless. This kind of feels more like what we did throughout the night didn't really matter, which, by the way, the nights in this game are way too fucking long for how boring the mechanics are. A game like Next Week at Freddy's can have really long nights because there's a lot of variables that can change throughout the night to make it interesting for a long time. But when every single character in the game is dealt with in the exact same way, 8-minute nights are just completely unnecessary and make the game feel like a drag. But like I said, after you complete the night, Afton gets into the office and we get the following cutscene.
I found you at last. Did you really think you could hide? Did you really believe that you could cower away from me? I own you. I own this place. This is my kingdom, and I shall take you to my hell.
So there you have it. The marionette appears from the fucking ceiling. I guess she was just hiding up there the whole night, and she sets off the Springlocks in Afton's suit. Which, by the way, once again, I have no idea why he's even wearing the Springlock suit. The robots are not even activated on this night, so it's not like he's trying to disguise himself from them. If anything, wearing the suit you killed them in would probably just piss them off. I'm not really sure. William dies in front of our eyes, and the Fazbear tomb comes to a close. Overall, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot I see wrong with this game. However, I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's clear a lot more care went into the storytelling and the designs, which I can appreciate. I know Maroon Fox is already working on the second game, but if you're watching this, Maroon, which I'm pretty positive you are, you need to fix the problems I mentioned in this video before you release the second one, because this game was incredibly frustrating and it did not need to be. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is actually the coolest FNAF fan game of all time? Let me know in the comments below. In my Fred and Pals video, I asked you guys if you had to survive any official FNAF game, which would you choose and why? And my favorite answer is this one by Professionally Bizarre. They said FNAF 2, and I agree, because realistically, you could just wear the mask the entire night and do everything else at the same time. The IP crossovers is something that happens quite often in different forms of media, and Five Nights at Freddy's is no exception. We've seen classics such as Five Nights at Sonic's and Five Nights at Wario's. However, I'm sure you can think of many other crossovers this massive genre has. I've recently learned about a FNAF game that has a crossover with another massive horror piece of media, and I'm very excited to share with you my experience with said game today. This game is very cool and incredibly difficult, so strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of SCP: The Endurance. When I first saw this game, I was really concerned that it was going to lean more into being a game like SCP Containment Breach instead of Five Nights at Freddy's. But luckily for me, I'm not going to have to bust through randomly generated rooms. Maybe in another video, I'll be forced to do that. But for now, yes, this game does follow the typical Five Nights at Freddy's formula. In SCP: The Endurance, we play as a Class D personnel. For those of you unfamiliar with SCP, Class D personnel are the lowest level of individuals of the SCP Foundation, consisting mostly of death row inmates. They usually live in solitary confinement cells and are often tasked with doing very dangerous things that could easily get them killed. And of course, this game has us do just that. The game opens to an infomercial designed for these Class D personnel, offering all of them the chance for some major benefits if they take part in the Endurance program, which by the way is slang for kill yourself. We've all seen situations like this before in media, and it's honestly one of my favorite story structures, so I was pretty excited when I first saw this. The task we have to complete, of course, is surviving 6 nights while watching over a section of the facility, while 8 monsters try and mush up your insides and make a nice little inside soup. We obviously don't want that to happen, so what tools do we have at our disposal to prevent such a catastrophe from happening? Well, let's start with stuff you'll always be using that isn't character specific. To your right, you have a door that can be closed. Pretty standard FNAF stuff. The longer the door is closed, the more power it will consume. In front of you, there is a hallway that you can flash, exactly like FNAF 2, except this time around, when something is in the hallway, the most ear-grating PTSD-inducing sound of all time doesn't play. Of course, there's the camera system, which does something that makes my dick hurt when I see it. That being that the camera has multiple levels for you to look at. There's nothing wrong with this mechanic, by the way. Just thought I'd mention how it makes me want to shit out my own organs. And finally, you can turn off the power to both your cameras and the entire building. The reasons for doing both of these things will become important later, so for now, just don't worry about it. Actually, that's a lie. Nothing actually happens on night 1 as it's just introductory, so I actually want to take this time to talk about the fucked up shit that is this game's power supply. This game drains power so fast, it isn't even funny. This is to encourage you to shut off essential systems to save on that power, because if you don't, there is literally zero chance you will survive the later nights. Inside of the cameras, you have the ability to turn off your ventilation. This game takes place underground, so if it's off for too long, you'll just suffocate and die. But it will make your power drain slightly slower, and in a game where you'll be completing each night with single-digit power integers, that is huge. Obviously, that's also where shutting off your cameras comes into play, as that will also save some power for you. However, booting up the cameras does take about 3 seconds, and with how brutal this game gets with character speed on later nights, I promise you that 3 seconds is a lot of time to wait. However, shutting off the cameras will also be essential to actually surviving the nights in this game. Now is the time I should mention how you need to start each night, as it's not as simple as just listening to the phone call. Each night you will have to boot up the computer for the first time by using a password. This password is randomly generated each time you start up a night. So if you die on night 4, for example, when you retry night 4, the password will change yet again. Each night starts with you booting up the PC and typing in the password. I highly recommend that you Control A, Control C, and Control V the password at the start of the night as well, because if either you or something else shuts off the power to the facility and you have to turn it back on, you will have to re-enter this password. So being able to copy and paste it is obviously a big time saver. We also have access to an SCP library where we can learn and read about the SCPs that we'll be encountering. Most of these entries are mainly for lore reasons, and in all honesty, I don't have a lot of interest in diving into the behaviors of each character, as it's literally pretty much just a wiki page. So I probably won't be doing that much in this video. I'm imagining most of you who are watching my channel frequently also probably know at least a little bit about SCPs anyways. Again, as I said, night 1 doesn't actually have any threats. You just get taught by the phone guy, Ronald, how to do everything you need to do, and that's about it. But now we can hop into night 2. And holy shit, this game goes from 0 to 80 really fucking fast. Night 2 introduces 5 characters. That is over half the fucking roster on night 2. I'm going to start with the easiest characters and work my way to the hardest. Strap in because this is going to get interesting. By far, the easiest character to deal with in my opinion is SCP-860-2, who I will just be referring to as SCP-860. 860 is the only character that uses your door. It will appear outside of the door far away in the trees. Which, by the way, side note, I don't really know why there are trees outside of this door. We are underground, but whatever. Throughout the night, it will approach your door until it is right up next to it. When it is, all you have to do is close the door and wait to hear it run away. If this door is closed for too long, the power to the building will be shut off and you will have to completely reboot, re-entering the password to the computer and all. I believe this is the easiest character simply because of how infrequently he attacks in comparison to the other characters. You may see him 5 or 6 times a night, which is a godsend compared to some of the other assholes we'll be talking about in a bit. The next easiest character in my opinion is SCP-066. 066 is just a giant pile of meat with some eyeballs. 066 by itself will not actually be able to end your runs. Instead, it cosplays as Satan. It will attack from the vent on your ceiling. At random times, you may see the vent on your ceiling open up. When you see this, you will have to simply click the vent to close it, and that's all. If you leave it open for too long, 066 will drop into your office and stay there for the rest of the night. While there, it will slowly increase the AI values of all of the other characters, which, by the way, has the chance to increase their AI values over the max 20, which, yes, will still make them harder. It also has the random chance to play sounds at 140 decibels, so just really don't let him into your office. You may be wondering why I've chosen to call 066 more difficult than 860, despite the fact that all you have to do is mindlessly click when you hear a noise. Well, that's because 066 is probably the fastest character in the entire game. On later nights, you will have less than 2 seconds to react and close the vent. And of course, it itself doesn't kill you. The ramping AI of the other characters probably will. Of course, that's unless you're Frogger and beat the 820 mode with 066 in the office the entire night. That guy's a madman. Next, we'll talk about SCP-096, arguably one of the most popular SCPs of all time. SCP-096 has the chance to spawn literally anywhere in the entire building, whether that be on any of the cameras or even directly in your office. Wherever it happens to be, all you have to do is stop looking at it. If it's in your office, flip up and down the camera quickly. If it's in the camera, either switch cameras or pull the camera down. While yes, 096 is not a problem by itself, it's in combination with how hectic and stressful the rest of the game gets, which is the reason I think 096 is as annoying and difficult as it is. SCP-106 is the next degenerate I'd like to talk about. This is the pocket dimension asshole, by the way, if you were curious. Occasionally, you will both hear and see 106 in your office. When you do, you'll have to put on the mask. Oh yeah, you have a mask, by the way. I know I forgot to mention that. I just wanted to keep you on your toes. And I totally didn't just forget it existed until I started talking about 106. So shut up. If you don't put the mask on fast enough, it appears one of two things could happen. I think. Maybe it's every time, but I've seen this not happen to some people on deaths to 106 multiple times. When you become caught by 106, it has a chance to teleport you to a pocket dimension. We're in the fucking guy that we're in the guy that does fucking genjutsu, aren't we? Oh my, what the fuck? What? Yo, this is sick as fuck. Oh, he dead. Oh, he dead. Where the game is put into a 3D environment where you have to complete some parkour across some rocks to escape. If you do manage to escape, then congrats, you get to continue the night. But of course, chances are you'll have spent too long in the pocket dimension that you'll probably die upon coming back. This pocket dimension also has some interesting secrets by itself, but I'll be talking about that a bit later in the video. Sitting there doing nothing in the mask is obviously not something you're going to want to be doing while being ass pounded by 7 other characters. So that puts 106 pretty high up on the difficulty chart in my eyes. SCP-173 is by far the most grueling and annoying character in this entire game. He acts as this game's main reason for using the cameras, which also really sucks because in most cases you'd prefer to have your cameras off just because of how horrifically quickly the power drains. 173 will slowly move throughout the building until it gets to your vent. You may notice to your left a giant vent is open on the wall. Yeah, if he gets there, you're dead. So, how do you stop him? Well, by staring at him on the cameras, of course. 173 has this super awesome and totally not penis tearing attribute where it will never move backwards and only forwards. So you really have to make sure you have your eyes on this thing the entire night. However, I should mention that once 173 gets to your office, that it's not an immediate game over. Oh, hey, I'm not blinking. I am not blinking and I'm looking right at you. Looking right at you. There's actually 2 phases it will have to get through before it can slither inside of you like one of those parasites that will swim up your urethra if you piss in a gross lake. I don't know. In true 173 fashion, if you're looking at him, he won't move. But if you open the cameras, turn to the side to deal with 860 and the door, or anything else that blocks your view of 173, it will move through its phases before blowing up your anus. Again, 173 is easily the most difficult character throughout this entire game, only being rivaled by one other asshole who we'll talk about later. But for now, if you can deal with all of that bullshit combined, you will successfully beat Night 2. Yeah, did you forget we were only talking about Night 2? Yeah, there's still 4 more of these, so strap in. Night 3 introduces one new threat. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It introduces the remaining 3 because fuck you. Those characters being SCP-049, SCP-1048, and SCP-079. Only one of these characters is actually a big issue, so let's talk about the less annoying 2 first. Let's start with what I feel is the easiest to deal with of these 3, SCP-1048. It's just a teddy bear, but a teddy bear that can move, to be fair. It takes advantage of your hallway. Appearing in it throughout the night, it will try to enter your office and murder the shit out of you. All you have to do is keep your flashlight on him to push him backwards. Not hard at all, just another power waster of a character. SCP-049 is the Plague Doctor, and I honestly wish I had the plague while playing this game so that I had a good excuse to just kill myself rather than continuing. 049 makes use of the 2 lockable doors on the bottom layer of the cameras. You can only lock one of these doors at a time, and thankfully doing so doesn't waste any power, and they don't unlock if the PC is shut off. If you see 049 at either door, simply lock it and it'll be no problem. The actual difficulty of 049 just comes in the likelihood that you will forget he even exists, and only remember once you find him in your office. And finally, The second most difficult character in SCP The Endurance is SCP-079. This guy is just a little quirky fella, really. He's just a bored little guy that really wants to play tic-tac-toe with you. What is this? What is that? Yes, I'm serious. There is a special panel to the left of your office. Throughout the night, 079 will play games of tic-tac-toe with you. Now, you may be a little inclined to completely pummel this stupid fucking computer's ass while playing this game with it. But I would actually advise against that, as if you lose too many games or win too many games against it, it'll get pissed off and start fucking with your lights and doors, which will probably end up leading to a death. So it's actually the best practice to just constantly draw against 079 every time you play. And there you have it. That is every single character in SCP The Endurance and how they work, all introduced on the third night. And it's only going to continue to get more and more soul-sucking as your playthrough goes on. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I couldn't complete Night 5. I put in a lot of attempts, but as I've mentioned multiple times in the past, I'm very bad at FNAF games, and I just couldn't beat it. I'm sure if I continued to pour in attempts that eventually I would complete it, as I did get to 5 AM a decent handful of times. I still have no desires to spend hours trying. I'd much prefer to just talk about it. After completing Night 5, we get the special meal we were mentioned to get at the beginning of the game in the infomercial. But guess what? We're still depressed because we're still in solitary confinement, and I'm about to tear my hair out, except I've already torn all the hair out of my head, so you'll have to use your imagination to figure out where I'm tearing the rest of my hair from. However, we're not done talking about this game quite yet, as there still are some cool things that it has to offer. Mainly, now is the time I want to talk about SCP-106, or Larry's, Pocket Dimension, and how important it is for unlocking both Night 6 and this game's secret ending. The first step to unlocking the secret ending is finding the 3 burnt pages in Larry's Pocket Dimension. There are skeletons all around this dimension, and every time you enter, a piece of a burnt page will appear next to one of them, which, yes, means you will have to go into his Pocket Dimension multiple times to acquire them all. The platforming in this game does make me want to skin a puppy alive, but hey, it's a FNAF game, not a platformer, so I guess that means something. Oh, and you want to know the best part? The Pocket Dimensions are totally random, so you could get the Pocket Dimension to spawn the same page multiple times, which means in theory it could take hours for you to ever be able to collect all 3. And you can't do the secret ending until you get all 3 of them, even though the code on it doesn't change. So that's realistically probably the worst part of this entire game. Spoiler alert, FNAF fans aren't a super huge fan of RNG. Who would have thought? Once you get all 3 pages and escape, you will be able to put them together in your office to reveal the code PGF4B. Typing this code into the computer instead of the one on the sticky notes will unlock Night 6. Night 6 is where you can get the secret ending. Not only is Night 6 hard as fuck, but getting the secret ending only makes Night 6 even harder. Once in Night 6, you will want to once again type in the burnt note code PGF4B. After it boots, you'll want to type in the command run power manager. This will give you a special tab on your second monitor that you can use to control all of the power in the building. This is where the secret ending makes Night 6 very hard. Obviously, Night 6 by itself is already difficult, having several threats to keep track of and having to react very quickly to all of them. However, the additional tasks this secret ending requires only serves to add more confusion and stress to your plate. In this new Power Manager menu, you will be able to click through every room of every floor in the facility. It looks a lot more confusing than it really is. The only sections that matter are the rooms that contain the elevators. You'll have to go to each elevator room and turn the power to each of them on by manually typing in codes. This section heavily reminds me of some of the tasks you're required to do in Banshee, another FNAF game I've covered on this channel. You should definitely watch that video after this one if you haven't already, by the way. This is the main reason I think this secret ending is so stressful. There is already so much bullshit happening at the same time that to add in precision typing on top of that really makes for a super tense experience. And while no, I never did it myself, I applaud anyone who was actually able to pull this insane shit off. After turning on the power to each elevator floor, our character will actually speak.
It worked! I can finally get the hell out of here.
Which is where I learned that we play as a female throughout this game. Not that that really matters, just something I wasn't expecting. We get a final cutscene of our inmate leaving the building, avoiding all the characters she'd been going up against thus far, and escaping the facility, only to find out that she was right in the sights of an SCP worker's gun. We never get to see if the bullet hits her, but we can only hope it didn't and that she was finally able to escape. But don't click off the video yet, you little piece of shit. I see you checking how much longer there is, trying to fuck up my retention. Stop it! You stop it! Naughty! Anyways, I've still got something else I want to talk about in this game that I think is really cool. So, it's becoming more and more common for FNAF games to integrate Game Jolt achievements. I think that's awesome. I think achievement hunting is super cool. But something I notice about a lot of these FNAF game achievements is that they're boring. Oh, beat night 1, beat night 5, beat night 6, beat all 20 mode. Stuff you would imagine people are already doing, which I feel makes them not feel like achievements a lot of the time. SCP The Endurance also has these achievements, except I've noticed that it also has a lot of super fun ones. So I'd like to dedicate this section to talking about those achievements. The first achievement I want to mention is called Seriously How. It can be achieved by dying on night 1. You may be wondering how that's even possible, considering there are no characters active and you have unlimited power. Well, there still is one way to kill yourself during night 1, and that's by turning off the ventilation and suffocating yourself. If you do that, ta-da! You've got yourself an achievement. It's a goofy one, yes, but I still think it's pretty cool. The next achievement I want to mention is called Ah, There You Are. This achievement can be obtained by allowing SCP-1048 to completely enter your office. Once he does, if you spam click his nose enough, you'll get this achievement. Yes, quite a few of these are pretty silly by the way, but that's why I like them. The next achievement is called Oh Whoa, What's This? Hey, shut up. I just told you they were silly. This one can be achieved by simply using the command commands or help in the terminal. You're a femboy, aren't you? Don't lie. I said oh whoa and I saw your little stupid ass fucking light up, freak. The next interesting achievement is called One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, and can be achieved by collecting one of the burnt notes in 106's pocket dimension and proceeding to fall out of the world and die. Interesting that they chose to call that an achievement, considering you didn't actually achieve anything at all. There are also two achievements that can be incredibly difficult to achieve. The first of which is called Catch Me If You Can. You get this achievement by surviving the night after aggroing SCP-096, which isn't necessarily too hard if you aggro him right at the end of the night, but you also have to hope that you can find him right at the end of the night. The other, much more difficult achievement is Staring Contest. This one is ass, I can't even lie to you. You have to let SCP-173 into your office for at least one entire hour of the night, so 1 minute real time. This is disgusting because you literally can't look away from him. And not looking away from him for a minute will require a good deal of luck to not get butt banged. There's also a really silly achievement called L+ ratio, wherein you complete night 3 without ever looking at the cameras, which I'm not going to lie, just sounds like complete hell. And finally, the last achievement in the game, which I would actually say is worthy of getting a trophy, is called My Goals Are Beyond Your Understanding, which is achieved on night 6 if you turn off every single light in the power manager, then shut off literally everything in the office that you can, leaving you completely vulnerable in literally every way possible. Doing this isn't hard. Doing this on night 6 definitely is. But as far as I'm aware, that's all SCP The Endurance has to offer. Overall, I think this game is incredibly solid. It was in development by one person for over 8 years, and I think it turned out great. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, I think the burnt notes being RNG is bullshit. And yes, I think the game giving you little to no hints for anything in the game is pretty ass. Overall, I still think this experience was a good one. I think this is probably one of the most high quality FNAF games I've seen in terms of how much dedication was poured into it, and I highly recommend you guys go and give it a try. In my Fredbear and Friends reboot video, I asked you guys what your least favorite mechanic in a FNAF game was, and my favorite answer was this one by Durgiz Nibble. They said having to reboot everything in FNAF 3 whenever you do anything, and I totally agree. I think that reboot panel is one of the most miserable things in any official FNAF game ever, and I would rather use steel wool as a toothbrush than ever have to deal with it again. Subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!